And we are live once again with a podcast about movies after taking a week off because I was feeling a little under the weather last week. it happens a lot when you work with children because they like to
They
share
get
their
sick.
germs.
Oh, yeah. My ex was a teacher, and yeah, the parents would just bring their sick kids to school and get all the teachers sick and all the other kids sick, and everybody's just sick all the time. And great, sounds good. Just drop your sick kids off and let everybody else deal with their germs. That's yeah.
Just part of the job, but
There's always some kid, I'm sure, always has something. At least one a day has something going on. Got to take those elderberries, Jacob. Get your music.
Yeah, which you think my immune system would be okay by now because I've been doing this for 10 years.
I know, because you're just like around it all the time, and yeah, just swimming in it every day. Yeah, but there's always something new. Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about me being sick all the time now. We're here to talk about movies. And specifically, why don't you introduce the topic since this was
Sure.
Your idea?
Yeah, ideas. Yeah. So I had this idea randomly. We kind of do the year thing occasionally. We did the birth year to present day thing, and that was fun. And we've done the A to Z thing. That's fun. So I just thought about there's always movies. Pretty much every year, there's always something celebrating an anniversary, right? So I figured, hey, let's. We just talked about the 50th anniversary of The Godfather on a previous episode. You can go check that out back in 1972. So I figured, why not talk about some other just anniversary movies? So maybe not so much the ones that are going to get shown in a theater on a viewing or something like that to celebrate the anniversary. Like Wizard of Oz is always getting shows, and Godfather, and any movies. But we'll just start with 2017 and work our way back every 5 years. So movies celebrating a 5-year anniversary, 10-year anniversary, etc., all the way to 50th anniversary. We can pick whatever we want. We can pick stuff we've seen, pick stuff we haven't seen. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't, as we'll probably talk about. But that's okay. That's one of the risks you run, Jacob, of watching something new. It may work for you, it may not, but that's okay. But we're not here to specifically going out of way to crap on movies or anything. If it didn't work, it didn't work, and that's okay. We try again next time and see what happens.
Yeah, I will say there's not a movie that I chose for the first time that I didn't like. I liked every one of them. Some of them I just had higher expectations going into, and maybe that's on me, but yeah, I mean, I liked everyone that I watched for the first time, but I guess there was just a small level of disappointment because I felt like they could have been better. But
yeah, well, that's okay. Well, one of the things is, if you're going to talk about a movie and if it didn't work, like what I want to hear from people is, why didn't it work? What worked, what didn't work? Why didn't this aspect work? What could they have probably done better to make it work? It's one of those things I don't like people that just shut down movies and go, that movie sucked. Why? Well, tell me why it didn't work. Maybe it didn't. I don't think the movie, most of the time the movie doesn't itself just suck. There's a lot of people that put a lot of work into it. So tell me what didn't work. Okay, did the script not work? Was it acting? Was it set design? Was it direction? Was it did it look like shit cinematography wise? Just tell me, give me some reasons. Let's go in depth and talk about it. So that's what we're here to do. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's okay. But we'll talk about it. But I went right down the middle. I picked 5 first watches and 5 champion watches. I guess I'll call it movies I want to champion or talk about. And you went a little skewed the other way, right? Like a little skewed.
Yeah, it was 7 and 3. 7 first time. Well, I know because I switched one. It was 6 and 4 with 6 first time watches and 4 rewatches.
Gotcha.
Yeah, one inspired by the Robin Williams Jim Carrey tournament fight. So I was like, oh, that did come out that year. We can talk about it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that works out, and that's good, and kind of fill in some gaps. So that's good. And yeah, again, what was your approach to picking what you picked? Did you have any kind of strategy, or was it just kind of seeing what's on streaming or what's available, or anything looked interesting?
It was a mix of both. Definitely a few of them were word of mouth. Like my 77 pick, I've heard interesting things about.
Right.
Like 92, just the lead performance I heard nothing but good things about, so I kind of wanted to check that out. And then
02 and 7 you've heard about from me a lot.
yes, and it seemed like the perfect time because I could knock them both out and
Right.
talk about them both at the same
And
time.
it
They were
fit
5 years apart.
207, it just fit right in. So it was like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll slide both of those in there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then unintentionally we both picked a documentary, and I wasn't planning on it, but I was like, oh, maybe I'll just see what documentaries are out there and throw one of those in because I do like documentaries and I don't feel like they get enough love on shows like this. But yeah, and as far as the rewatches, there's definitely just things I wanted to champion, specifically my latest, my 1972 pick and my 2017 pick specifically were ones that I was pretty high on, and one of them I'm not as high on upon a rewatch, and we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Cool.
So,
well,
what was your approach?
Now, see, the extra week gave me time because I had already run through all of mine, so I took some time to kind of run through a few of yours as well. Did you get to any of mine, or if you didn't, it's cool. I was just curious. Did you get to any of the ones on my list?
I just didn't have. I worked a lot later than I usually do, just because of again, when you work in a daycare, sickness just happens to run through, and it's just unfortunate. But I have seen one of your picks already, so
okay,
I'll at least be able to talk about one. But now I'll have hopefully 9 good recommendations to watch in the future.
Yeah, we'll see how good they played. We'll talk about it, but I think we should go most recent to oldest. Let's build up the anniversaries. So we'll build back to the 50th anniversary because those are the kind of the big ones. So yeah,
I like that because we'll probably talk about my favorite of my list at the end. So I like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely we will end on a positive note if we do it that way for me and for what I watched on yours. So I think that'll be a good strategy because my oldest one ended up being very positive. I liked your oldest one a lot, so that can be a positive. So yeah, we'll do that. So so we started, like I said, we're jumping every 5 years, and we'll kind of talk about what each of us picked, maybe why we picked it, or real quick, and then we'll get into it. So just a couple minutes on each one. So we'll start with 2017 movies that are 5 years old. Well, we'll start with you. You want to go first? What did you pick for 2017?
I picked the movie Bodied, which is an Eminem produced movie. I believe it was only. I don't think it was a theatrical release. I believe it only was available on YouTube actually, and you had to buy or rent it. And it's about a college student who is trying to write a thesis about the use of the N-word in battle rap. And it features a former Disney Channel star. And there's a cool moment in the movie that I'll get to in a minute, and that I noticed this on the second viewing. But so he's at a battle, and he's trying to get an interview with a pretty predominant battle rapper in I believe they're in California. I don't know where at in California they're at, but
I think they start in Oakland, and don't they go to LA for like a thing? And don't they go to LA like for the final?
Yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember where in California they were, but now they mention it.
Because like the first battle rap, it's all about like what up Oakland, whatever the area code, there's a lot of stuff in the beginning of that.
So and then he gets volunteered to battle another white guy in the parking lot, and turns out he's not too bad. And so and then the movie just kind of goes all over the place. I didn't realize how absurd it was the first time I watched it. I just really watched it for the rap aspect of it. I think the performances in it are pretty good. As far as the lead, I think he's he's good. I'm not gonna say it's great, but he's good. The other lead, Ben Grimm. What you mean the Thing from Fantastic Four?
No, BERYMM, Ben Grimm.
Yeah. He's weird. I've seen him in a few other things, and I like him as an actor. I thought he did a decent job here, but the first time I watched this, I really liked it. I thought the rap aspect of it was cool. I thought the story, it was a good pace. I liked the way it was going, and then the ending, I was like, all right, cool. Happy ending. He's getting his hand raised. He's finally found friends and a home. Cool. And then I watched it the second time.
And you're like, but wait, he doesn't get expelled from school and like all this other stuff like that happens at the end, and he loses his girl, and he's kind of shamed by his classmates for some of the things he says. Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag.
And he finally finds a friend, and the one thing he said was, I don't do personal, and he talks about this aspect of his life and this aspect of his life. And like, no, he really is a horrible person. Like, Ben Grimm is right. You are a horrible person. Like, why didn't I catch this the first time? I don't know if you caught it. The one little Easter egg that I liked was when he got kicked out of his girlfriend's house and he was staying with Ben Grimm, and he's like, You wanna go watch Disney Channel? Yeah, what do you want to watch? You want Austin and Allie? And I didn't notice it the first time. I chuckled the second time because the main lead was in Austin Alley on Disney Channel. And I was like, oh, that's a nice little Easter egg. I didn't catch that the first time, but no, upon the second, like, I wanted to champion this. I really did. But now it's like, if you're a fan of battle rap, you might like it, but as far as like just general audiences, I'm not sure if this is one I would actually recommend.
So you put this on the list, and like I said, I with the extra week, I was able to get to a lot of stuff. So I ended up watching it, and I didn't even really know much about what it was about. I just knew it had something to do with battle rapping, that sort of thing. And it's got this white dude who does like slam poetry, and he's doing this like dissertation, but he in his head he's able to kind of put together like poetries that rhymes in his head, and finds out he's good at this rapping thing, and he's got the conflict of like, he's trying to come up with clever things, but the crowd's not into it. But like when he goes to the stereotypical like lines, dropping about race stuff or whatever, like that's what the crowd responds to, and then it becomes a whole thing because his girlfriend is like, I mean, there's no other way to describe her. She's like very, very woke, like that's her character. Yeah. Like everything is about this, that, and the other, cultural appropriation, all this stuff, and so he gets into a little bit of trouble. And then like I said, he makes friends with some of these guys, but then he takes it too far when he ends up rapping Ben Grimm and kind of go, while he tells him, nothing's off limits, he ends up going, way too personal on the thing. And that was definitely an awkward, uncomfortable scene when it gets to it, when they're rapping and he starts going in on like, the family and the daughter and stuff like that. That was definitely like, oh, dude, yeah.
Even the first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, that might be taking it a little too
far." But I mean, overall, I liked it. I mean, I thought it was interesting. I think that the performances are what kind of kept me going. I did feel like the movie's a little too long for what it is. It's like a little over 2 hours, which it doesn't need to be. We should be like a really tight 90 minutes. Like it really should be, like, for what it is. Stuff like 8 Miles a little longer than an hour and a half, just because it's more of almost like a biopic kind of thing. They dive a little more into the stuff side of it. But there was some stuff, a lot of stuff I laughed at. Was that Simon Rex running the rap in the middle?
Simon Rex and Andy Milonakis.
Yeah, I thought it was because he does. I thought it was, and then if you go back to like Scary Movie 3, Simon Rex raps as George. He goes like a rap and he raps Fat Joe in that movie. He does something about like my neck is red, my skin is white, my neck is red, I put Miracle Whip on my Wonder Bread, stuff like that. Yeah, I remember that scene. So I thought that was him. But yeah, there's a couple of cameos of people like that throughout the movie. But I mean, for what it was, like I had a good time with it, and I enjoyed it, and I at least thought the battle rap scenes were very good. I mean, the Disney Channel guy was good, a very good at delivering. So yeah, it was good stuff. I mean, overall, yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's like an instant classic or anything like that, but I had a good time with it. So I'm glad you at least recommended it. Now I've seen it. Yeah, and I at least enjoyed that. I can see this one of those things where a lot of people in the comments, YouTube comments, when you watch it, were like, "Oh, I learned about this movie from TikTok," because they put like clips of it on TikTok. So it's like some of the battle rap stuff, and I could definitely see that. I could see somebody going on YouTube and just putting the compilations of the battle raps on here, online. So, and not actually watching the movie, but yeah, not bad, not bad. I enjoyed Bodied.
Yeah. I think just real quick, I think my favorite like battle rap scene was the ones where you switch roles. The Asian and the black girl, whatever,
like
right or whatever.
I was pretending to be black, and the black chick was pretending to be Asian. Yeah, that was clever. Yeah, I like that.
I like that. So
yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah.
So I went with 2017, a movie I ended up seeing on Hulu back in 2017, and I really wanted to revisit and check it out because it's got a lot of interesting things. Yeah, it's called The Endless, and The Endless is sort of it's kind of a half creepy cult movie, half sci-fi movie. I like creepy cult movies because they're creepy. when you especially when the cult people don't think that they're creepy and they are. But yeah, it's about like these two brothers, and the brothers were kind of in the cult when they were younger, and the older brother kind of got them out. Because he was noticing things that the younger brother was not, because he was too young to notice them at the time, and ended up getting them out. And the younger brother just wants to go back and kind of see everybody and just say hello. And he promises he just wants to go back to just say hi, just a day or two, and then we'll leave. I promise, that sort of thing. And of course, there's weird things going on. There's stuff where there's talk of like an entity that kind of runs the place, and they start figuring out weird things. One of the guys, I won't spoil too much of it, but just to intrigue you, one of the guys goes for a hike, and all of a sudden he starts coming across people that are stuck in time loops in like their own little circles, which is really creepy. There's a guy that's stuck in a 6-second time loop where he just wakes up in a chair and he runs towards the end of the tent and then starts back all over again. And then just over and over and over again. And there's other guys that are stuck in like a 3-hour loop. There's another guy that's stuck in a 8-hour loop. And if they don't kill themselves, then whatever this entity is will mutilate them and start it all over again. So they try to kill themselves in the least painful way possible, so that the entity doesn't kill them in the worst possible way. Yeah, it's weird stuff. And the cult is sort of building up to a thing that's going to happen, at the end of some cycle. I'll just leave it at that. and they're kind of stuck in the middle of it. So, yeah, it's one of those things where it definitely has a kind of a slow build. But that's what most creepy cult movies are. It just kind of slowly ratchets up the tension, gives you little pieces here and there. But it's definitely really interesting. I highly recommend it if you're into like, again, cult stuff or time loop stuff, because there's a lot of that stuff in there. Just really weird movies. I like it a lot, and it's available everywhere. It's like on YouTube for free. It's on Peacock. It's on Tubi. It's everywhere, so it's easy to find.
Yeah, I actually own it. I just
do you? All right.
I haven't gotten around to it yet, but
nice.
Yeah, no, it's high on my radar to watch. Yeah, because and especially now, I mean, coming off your recommendation, and yeah, I was unaware of the time loops. I knew like the basic premise of the cult and them going back just to say hi. I don't know why you would want to go back to just say hi to a cult.
Right. Exactly.
But
yeah, well, the time loop thing is like a punishment thing, so people get put in their own little like areas, and depending on how they're pissed off the entity is like how short the loop is and stuff. And so it's definitely creepy in that aspect, but yeah, it's good stuff. I enjoy it. Yeah.
I will get to that one and report back.
Yeah, right. Sounds good. All right, what do you got for the 10-year anniversary? Can you believe 2012 was 10 years ago? That's weird, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah.
2012 is the documentary I chose. It was the Ice-T documentary, Something from Nothing, The Art of Rap. I found this was available for free on YouTube, and I originally had something else for 2012. I couldn't remember, but then I was like, no, let me pick a documentary, and I was scrolling through, and I saw this one. And I was like, okay, I'm a
well, had you not already picked Dread to watch for another show, you could have picked Dread.
Right.
That would have been a good time watch. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm mixed on this one because there are segments of this that I really enjoyed, but there are segments of it that I was just like meh on. So the basic premise of this documentary was Ice-T was just going around.
Wait, real quick. We should state, was this a first time or a rewatch?
This was the first time.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, just checking.
Okay. So the basic premise of this was that Ice-T was going around interviewing several rappers, you know, from all the way back from the 90s. Not he wasn't interviewing them in the 90s, just rappers from the 90s, and you know,
Big Daddy Kane and Grandmaster Flash, stuff like that. Yeah, kind of
KRS-One,
Rakim, Nas, different people.
Yeah, Kanye, even some of the bigger names from the 2010s at that time. And he'd interview them. They'd like talk about their writing style, and you know, kind of some of them would talk about how they got discovered, and then they'd do a freestyle, and it was enjoyable for the most part. But there were just segments where I was like, all right, let's get to the next guy. So I felt like there had to have been at least 20, maybe. I didn't count, but
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. There was so much, and it's like, what was it, like an hour 45? And so it's like you didn't really get to spend time. It was like 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, and I was like, I don't know anything more. Like the freestyle.
Let me articulate my problems I have with this documentary. And again, I like the premise. The problem is most of the documentaries I like and the ones I connect to weave some kind of storyline out of the documentary premise, or there's some kind of goal or end thing, or they end up having all this footage and are able to turn it into something that plays almost like a movie. You know, like the one I'll talk about here in a minute that I picked kind of does that, and it keeps you engaged in that way, where there's almost like an end goal or something that kind of unintentionally comes out of it. This felt like there was no direction or editing, like there was no goal. It was just like, okay, somebody gave a film crew to Ice-T, and he just goes around and he has a general premise of like talking about rap, but he doesn't really know where he's going with it. He's just like talking to people, and it's just a bunch of disjointed segments. So it's like there's interesting things where he's talking to Big Daddy Kane about what's the difference between an MC and a rapper. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting premise, you know, or at least an interesting question, or, you know, he's talking, but then like every segment ends with like, all right, cite me some lyrics that have always stuck with you, and now do your freestyle for 3 minutes for like no reason. And then it's just like, okay, I don't know where this is going. And then I got like an hour and 15 minutes into it, and I was like, is there like a thing we're building to? Is there something we're getting? Is there somewhere we're going? And like, it feels like good documentaries have something where we're getting to some kind of end thing. And like, I didn't feel like I you know, not that I didn't learn anything, because it's definitely interesting. He's interested in the topic, but I felt like this needed some kind of director or somebody being like, hey, you should go talk to this person, so we could weave it into talking to this person, maybe talking to some battle rappers. Maybe we end up, you know, having like, you know, battle rapping, you know, talking with real, you know, MCs who don't do that, or so. I don't know, build a rap reunion. I don't know, anything, you know, something. Build something where like you know, we blow it off. Maybe it was building to a, you know, like, again, I'm not saying make stuff up, but like if you weaved it into, maybe there was going to be a congressional hearing about rap music, I don't know, and you build up to like the importance of rap music and why people shouldn't be criticized. I don't know, something. Give me something to. And this just felt like Ice-T goes around and interviews people for an hour and 45 minutes. Again, which is fine if that's what you want to watch, but it needed something to like kick it over the edge, for me personally.
Yeah, no, you said exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, because when we talk about the one I'll talk about, I'll say, like, I'll articulate as far as like why I like the one I picked, that I'm championing it, because it kind of does that, and I'll
mhm.
explain why.
Yeah, but yeah, like this, it felt disjointed. I did like the segment with KRS-One. I thought that one was really good.
Hmm.
I think he's just such a well-spoken guy. Like he kept me engaged.
Hmm.
Um, then I like the one with Eminem. That just might be my
Right.
my personal bias though. And the one with Dre, Dr. Dre. Like those three, like I
Right.
really enjoyed those. But the rest of it, I was like checking my phone, a notification would pop up, and it was like, oh, we're still interviewing
You,
Q-Tip.
you
Okay.
know what? You know what this felt like? It felt like a series of DVD extras that you would get on a better
Right.
documentary.
Right.
Like, here's the extended segment with KRS-One. Here's the extended segment with Big Daddy Kane. You know what I mean? Here's the extended segment with whatever, and like all the stuff you would see on the extras of a really good documentary is what it kind of felt
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it needed somebody to kind of rein it in, or somebody to take control of the footage and weave some kind of narrative, or some kind of goal. And I felt like it just didn't have that. So yeah, again, good information if that's what you're looking for. But like when I wanted a good documentary, I need some kind of through line to keep me going.
Yeah.
So that's all.
And Kanye's freestyle went on way too long.
Way too
No
long. Yeah,
joke. I got up, walked to the bathroom, came back out,
right.
and he was
He's
still
still
going.
going.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
I could have gotten up, walked my dog, made my dinner, taken a nap, and he would have still been going. Yes, way too long. Yeah.
all
All
right.
right.
What do you
So
got
anyway,
for 10 years?
for 10 years, 2012, I picked a horror remake that doesn't get talked about a lot. I picked the movie Maniac, starring Elijah Wood. So for those who don't know, it is a remake of a 1980 film starring Joe Spinell. And you're probably saying, well, who's Joe Spinell? Well, you probably know who Joe Spinell is. You just don't know his name. I'll tell you why. Have you seen Rocky, Jacob Barber, or Rocky 2?
Yeah.
He's Gazzo, the loan shark boss that he has throughout those movies. That's Joe Spinell,
Oh, okay.
the kind of greasy mustache wearing, loan shark guy. You're going to be at the fight ringside. That guy. Break his thumbs, Rocco. That's that guy. So and he was also in actually the first two Godfather films. He's kind of a background goon for the Corleones. He
Okay.
worked a lot in the 70s. I think he passed away in the early 80s, so he didn't live very long. But he showed up in a lot of in the 70s, but he did the original Maniac, and the original Maniac is a very creepy, dirty, like take a shower after watch it kind of a film, in like dirty New York, about this guy who hires like prostitutes and ends up like scalping them and putting their hair on like mannequins, and it's like a really
Oh.
creepy movie, and stuff like that. And he's kind of schizophrenic. So what they did with this remake is the whole movie is shot from a first person perspective of Elijah Wood's character. So the whole thing is a POV movie, sort of like Hardcore Henry or like the segment of Doom, like those sort of things where it's like a
Hmm.
completely first person thing. With Elijah Wood's character, you're seeing the whole movie through his eyes. But you're following him. It's in LA instead of New York, and it's a modern LA. It has this really cool synth wave, like throwback score that's really, really good, and just hits you right with it. And it's really interesting. And yeah, it's the same thing where he's kind of arguing with himself all the time. He's schizophrenic, and he ends up killing these girls and doing the same thing, like putting these mannequins together. But once he does that, they kind of like in his head come alive and like argue with him and talk to him and stuff, like in his head, just like, what'd you do to me? What'd you turn me into? That sort of thing. He's arguing with himself. Why'd you kill that girl? She was really nice, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's very creepy. And again, Elijah Wood is the main star. He's really, really good. You don't see much of him other than like in mirrors and reflections and
Hmm.
things, obviously, because it's from the POV perspective.
Right.
But I just think, it's what a good remake should do, which is take, basically the same premise, but like put a new spin on it, which is what they did with the POV stuff, setting it in a different location, setting it in modern times, but still having kind of the same basic premise. So I like remakes that do that kind of put a new spin on it, kind of like the new RoboCop did. Just do something a little bit different with it, and at least make it stand out. So you're not doing like a shot for shot, just whatever remake. It's a little harder to find online. I have a Blu-ray of it from IFC Midnight, but yeah, it's really good if you enjoy horror movies. I know you're not like a hardcore horror guy. You're kind of like a casual horror guy. It's kind of more for hardcore horror fans, but I do recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. It's on a streaming service called Plex for free.
Yeah, I've heard of Plex. I don't think I've actually ever used Plex. I don't know if I have, but yeah, one of those weird ones. Yeah.
So, all right, another one that comes highly recommended that I will report back on.
You probably won't. It's for hardcore horror fans. I don't know if you're ready for Maniac yet. We'll see. But yeah, we'll get through some more. We'll get through some more major horror franchises before we move on to stuff like Maniac. So especially if you watch the original too, it's a very skeezy, grungy, dirty horror movie. I like that stuff, but that's just me because I'm a weirdo. But yeah, it's really good. So. All right. Well, hey, I got an idea. Should we do my 2007 first, since your 2007 to 2002 kind of tie together? Should we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that so we don't have to break them up. So let me jump to my 07. So my 07 is my documentary that I picked that was not a first-time watch. I'm championing it, much like Maniac. It's called The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. And it's one that I actually saw in the theater back in 2007. It came out for 2 or 3 weeks, and I was actually able to catch it. I remember seeing it. And the basic premise is, I have to do a little behind the scenes first before I talk about the premise, because they just wanted to explore sort of, this world of competitive classic gaming. So, people who play Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Galaga, Donkey Kong, which is becomes kind of the main one. All these people who play these classic games and try to set new world records and things. They originally intended to follow this old lady who was trying to play Q*bert, literally an 80-year-old lady who was trying to break the Q*bert world record. They follow this company called Twin Galaxies, which online was kind of the head group who kept track of all the scores online, and were the official ones. And then we meet Billy Mitchell, who's this dude who kind of looks like hippie Jesus. He's got this long kind of black hair mullet and this, goofy thing. And he's a very kind of cocky, arrogant dude. And he talks real serious about gaming. And he claims that he's basically the greatest video game player, as far as classic video game player in the world. And he holds the record for Donkey Kong. But along comes a guy who who has a Donkey Kong machine in his garage, and he has a family and 2 kids, a guy named Steve Wiebe. And Steve Wiebe takes a video of himself setting a record on Donkey Kong in his garage, but then having a battle with the Twin Galaxies people, having a battle with Billy Mitchell over the authenticity of it. It builds to him traveling to this official sanctioned arcade to try to do it in person. But it becomes this thing where Billy Mitchell is elusive and doesn't want to show his face and doesn't want to do it in person, or he always is getting challenged to do it in person. He doesn't want to, and he's this enigma. But it kind of builds to them going back and forth with this record. So again, like I was saying, this documentary does a cool thing in that it takes the footage and turns it into this one-on-one feud, throughout the movie that you're invested in, and kind of some weird conspiratorial stuff or some behind the scenes kind of shenanigans that keep you kind of up and down like a movie. I mean, it plays literally like a movie, and it's a lot of fun. And even if you're not into those old school games, it's fascinating how into it they are, and it's just really intriguing, and it's a roller coaster ride of just ups and downs, and it's just a lot of fun. I highly recommend this thing. It's very easy to watch. It's 80 minutes. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. Very, very good. Very, very fun.
All right. Yeah, 80 minutes on YouTube. Yeah, I will get to that one. I'll probably get to that one before Maniac, if we're being honest.
Yeah, of course you
will. But yeah, no, I do like those old school. Well, it is. Sorry, I looked outside a minute ago. No rain.
Yeah, it's raining really hard. Yeah,
just a downpour. Welcome to Washington.
Yeah, right. There you go.
No, I do like those old school games. I think that That's why I'm a bigger fan of Pixels than most people. Like I just like all those seeing all those.
No,
old
I mean,
movie.
I think the thing that most bothers me about Pixels is the casting of Kevin James as the president.
That's the only
And there's an easy fix to that. Brian Cox is in the movie. Have Brian Cox be the president, and you just fixed it. You know, like I could buy Brian Cox as the president and have Kevin James just be one of the ensemble of guys, him and Dinklage and Adam Sandler being the game guys. I buy that. You know what I mean? Cool. And you fix the movie. It's like, and you fixed a lot of the problems I had with the movie. So, yeah, I mean, but yeah, that one deals with, the same things, Galaga and Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and stuff. And yeah, I think if you like those old school games, like you should definitely check this out because it's very fascinating as far as what it is. And again, like I said, there's shady stuff going on and there's this great rivalry. It's a lot of fun. It's really, really good.
Cool. All right. So not
like you said, you're 02 and 07 tie into each other, so we can talk about both of them at the same time because they're literally it's a movie and its sequel that just happened to come out in those years. So
yeah, it worked out.
First time watching, I like it.
First time watches for both of these. Yep. So starting in 2002 was 28 Days Later, and then my 2007 pick is 28 Weeks Later, and so it's obviously we'll start with the first one because it started with monkeys because it always starts with monkeys.
Infected monkeys. Yeah.
Infected monkeys. And you had some well-intentioned people trying to free the monkeys. The intentions were in the right place, but
what these lab monkeys have and you're letting out on the public, stupid dummies. Yes.
Your intentions are in the right place, but sometimes you just need to shut up and listen to the man who knows what he's talking about.
Sometimes maybe protesting outside of the building is the better option, and just trying to draw journalistic attention to it is probably the better option than actually breaking in and not knowing what you're going to face. Yes.
Yeah. This whole thing could have been avoided.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that they were just infected. I don't think they ever actually used the word zombie.
No, and that's one of those things where it's Jacob, excuse me, they are never actually reanimated corpses. They are simply infected by a rage virus, so they are not zombies because they eventually die of starvation in the movie. And once they are dead, they are dead. You do not have to destroy the brain in order to kill the rage infected person. You can kill them like a regular person. No, just kidding. No, I mean, but I understand. Like it's a zombie movie for all intents and purposes. But yeah, it's one of those like actually yeah. So yeah. So this one starts with starts with that, and then we cut to Cillian Murphy waking up in the hospital. Ladies, if you are a fan of Cillian Murphy, the opening scene might be for you. And then he wanders out of the streets, and it's just it's there's nothing there. And boy, does he get a rude awakening real fast. Right.
Meeting these infected people running off, and he eventually joins up with these two others. And you got to stick together. Finds out, I'm not, spoiler alert for a 20-year-old movie, guys.
Right. No, I think it's
his parents are dead.
Right.
That was a sad image. Them just laying on the bed,
right?
His hand, like that image. Yeah, I felt that image. Like, oh, that's sad. But at least they died with each other. But I really enjoyed this. It's about them working together. They meet a father played by Brendan Gleeson, who I love Brendan Gleeson as an actor. I think he's just fantastic in everything he does. I love him as Mad Eye Moody. He was great in Paddington 2.
Enough, Mike 2 also features Brendan Gleeson. So just a crazy coincidence. Yeah, supporting role. So yeah.
Yeah, so and he just wants to. I think he just wants to keep his daughter safe. He's very, very honorable. Wants to keep his daughter safe, and unfortunately, he tries too hard and gets just a little too emotional. Once they find the place they're supposed to be going to. I was not expecting him to die in this movie. I kind of so that was like, no, why him? Why of all people him? No.
When he gets the blood drop in his eye, you're just like, oh no, oh god, no, shit. And then he's like, stay away, no, back up. Yeah, it's rough.
Kill him. I don't want you to kill him though. But you
Mhm.
have to. I understand why.
Yeah.
And then, boy, does this movie take a turn, I think, when they get to the, what are we going to call it, a compound? A safe?
The
a safe
kind of just military safe house, yeah. This compound in this field, yeah. This house, kind of a thing. Yeah, it kind of takes a turn into like a survival movie, but in a different way, surviving just maniac, crazy people, not rage people, just like crazy dudes who have bad intentions after the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, because on HBO Max, and you probably know this, when you start the movie, it'll say the rating at the top and why.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it showed that word, and I was like, oh, that's in this movie? No.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a zombie movie. Like what? Where's that gonna happen? And then you see it, and you're like, oh, these people are sick.
Yeah, bad people. Yeah.
These are not good people. I want you to get out. Please get out. Thankfully, they get out. And no, it was a really good movie. I'm glad I finally got around to it. I know it's come highly recommended from you. I liked the way Infected looked. I thought it was really cool. I thought I thought the setting was good. I think they showed kind of like a. I hate using the word zombie apocalypse because they're not zombies.
I mean, did you notice they really filmed that stuff in London? And to make it look like that, they literally were only able to close the streets to film because they didn't have a huge budget. I mean, they had a little bit of a budget, but Danny Boyle, who made this movie, only had like 15-minute chunks, to like film the stuff with Cillian Murphy like walking around these abandoned streets to where they had to like get papers and all the garbage like like blow it around, and then like he had to like basically walk up the street and nail it in like a take or two, and that's all they had because they literally did not have permission to go any longer than that because you can't hold up traffic in London for more than 10-15 minutes. And they would do that, the traffic would go through, another hour later they'd shut it down for like another 10 minutes, get another take of some other angle or some other street, and that was it. But like the way they shot it and the way they did it is haunting. Like the way they're able to really convince you that London is like abandoned. It's pretty crazy, like what they were able to accomplish and do that. So that stuff is just tremendous filmmaking. All the chase sequences are really intense, like the stairwell chase, they have that one building is really intense. The stuff where he's first discovering it, like in the churches and things, are pretty crazy. The one in the tunnel where they're trying to change the tire and they're just coming around slowly around the. You see the shadows, just kind of getting closer and closer. Like all that stuff is really good. It's just very simple, but it feels like guerrilla filmmaking. I mean, even the way it's shot, kind of grainy, kind of feels like it's on a handheld camera or something. It kind of adds to the intensity. And I love the way the rage people look with like the constant just blood kind of dripping and foaming at their mouths and like the bloodshot eyes and all that stuff. Like looks really good. It's an intense, crazy movie, and it's one of those things that's definitely held up even 20 years later, I think.
Yeah, and I like the little comedic break in there too, where they're in the grocery store.
Oh yeah, because why wouldn't you do that? They do the same thing, and that's a throwback to the original Dawn of the Dead, the '78 one. I don't think you've seen that one because it's kind of hard to find. But the original one, there's a whole sequence where they're just kind of bored for a while after they've dispatched of all the zombies in the mall, and they're just kind of living, where they're going through like the food store, just trying everything, just eating stuff. There's like a montage of them just, going in the clothing stores and playing dress up and doing all the stuff, playing arcade games in the arcade and, just doing all this different thing, raiding the bank for money just because why not? You don't need it anymore. Things like that. They're just kind of living. That's what it's kind of a throwback to is, they're just going through, just eating stuff and grabbing whatever. And there's those nice breaks. I like it before it kind of obviously, like you said, ratchets up at the military place.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed this one. I really liked this one. It's probably one that I'll go back to. Not sure if I could say the same for 28 weeks later. I did like double feature these. It was one after another. And I will definitely say that I think the first one is better, but that's not to say this one was bad. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But
it's just it's a very different movie because it's shot differently. It's shot more narratively, where it's not just following this one group. It's like it's shooting a story, you know, where it's cutting back and forth to multiple characters. You know, it's not just like, it doesn't seem like a thriller movie where it's just following this group of survivors. Like, it's more of a story, and it's a different director too. It's Juan Fresnillo, something like that.
Yeah, something different.
That Danny Boyle was still producing. He still had something to do with it, but yeah, it's a different director, so it's a different looking movie. It's a different feeling movie. But you know, even having said that, I still contend that regardless of what you've been thinking about the rest of the movie, the opening 10 minutes of this movie is one of the most intense, crazy openings to any movie.
I do love the opening. Yeah, the opening was great, but
it's insane.
Yeah. But the rest of the movie was just, it was good. It wasn't like, I think 28 Days Later can go down as like a classic, but I don't know if I could say the same for 28 Days Later. And that's somebody I've only watched them just the one time. So maybe on the rewatch, I'll feel differently.
I think you kind of reset your expectations and kind of know what you're getting with the sequel, kind of getting more broad, getting into a bigger story about this recovery process, about, you know, them setting up this kind of quarantine zone, and, you know, the fact that they're kind of starting to get back to normal, they're at least trying to, and then Robert Carlyle makes a really, really stupid decision by making out with his infected wife while she's in a hospital. I will say that sequence where he turns and they're all in that hallway kind of locked in there, I think is one of the best examples in any kind of zombie disease movie, whatever, of how fast stuff can spread and capturing the panic of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How fast it goes and not knowing what's happening, and just the sheer panic and terror of what can happen in a closed space and not knowing who's affected, people getting attacked left and right. I think they actually do a really good job of doing that. And then of just the utter chaos of, like, you know, when people are streaming out and they're just shooting everybody, you know, I think that those chaos scenes are actually really well done. But, you know, you have to admit, going back to this movie from 2007, this cast is kind of stacked with people you recognize, at least now.
It is, yeah.
At the time, because it's Robert Carlyle, who, I mean, he's a British character actor from like the Full Monty and stuff. Like, he's been around forever. But then, like, Rose Byrne shows up before she was Rose Byrne. And then, like,
Rose Byrne, an Australian actress playing an American in a movie shot in the UK.
Yes. And then you get Jeremy Renner shows up as the sniper guy, like he's in there. This is pre-Hawkeye, pre-MCU, all that stuff. Idris Elba, like, as like the commander, like it's great. Like, there's a bunch of these people like show up and you're like, oh wow, because at the time I didn't know who they were, but you go back to it, you're like, oh, Imogen Poots, like all kinds of people you recognize, and you're like, oh, that's cool. So that at least kept me going, you know, when I went back on my rewatches. But yeah, I think you kind of have to reset expectations to enjoy this one, because it's a much broader just horror film, rather than, like, it's a definitely different style. But I enjoy this one. I think it's kind of underrated, and it sometimes gets a bad rap. But because people do talk about the opening scene and how good that is. That's like undisputed. Like, even people who don't like this movie go, yeah, that opening 10 minutes is pretty damn great. You know, like they kick on the music and the horde comes over the hill and they're just chasing them to the boat. Like, it's nuts. But yeah, like, but you know, whether or not you like the rest of it is kind of up for grabs. But I do like it. I do enjoy it as a sequel.
I just for me, I didn't buy that you could be immune. Like, I'm not. It didn't, like, maybe I just need to rewatch it again and see, but like, it didn't click with me. Like, how can you be immune to the rage? Like, I don't know. Maybe. Okay.
Like, well, it's like Contagion, though. Like, if you've ever seen Contagion with like Matt Damon and that cast and stuff, like Matt Damon in that movie is just immune to this new disease because he just is. Like, there's just some people that it just doesn't affect them. You know, that's just a weird genetic thing. Like, I buy it just because it's that one person or that one family. It's not everybody. You know, it's like they're just finding those random. I don't think it's unfathomable that one person out of like a million people might be immune to this thing. It's completely unfathomable. Like, it's not like everybody is. It just is a random thing where it just doesn't affect this person. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, you know, you could roll that. You just kind of have to. It's the conceit of the movie. You just kind of have to roll with it. But
right.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you at least were positive on overall on both of them and really like the first one. I'm happy about that. Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, my O2 again features Brendan Gleeson in a supporting role, but it's a movie I've talked about a lot that I just champion all the time. It's in my top 64, a movie I've talked about ever since it came out. And that's Gangs of New York by Martin Scorsese. I
Which
just
they
think
took
it's.
off Netflix, so I couldn't watch it.
Oh, did they really? Okay,
Yeah, it's not on
that's
Netflix anymore.
yeah. But yeah, this Gangs of New York is great. I've always said it's one of the more underrated kind of Scorsese and DiCaprio movies that just doesn't get talked about a lot. I mean, obviously people talk about the Daniel Day-Lewis Bill the Butcher performance, which is incredible. Like he completely steals the movie. It's one of his best performances ever. It's right under Daniel Plainview, I think, for most people. As far as his stuff. But yeah, I absolutely adore how much Scorsese is able to immerse you into this world of like 1860s New York, in this Five Points location. It's all real locations, real sets, tons of extras. Everything is just like authentic. It's a nice immigration story about sort of these native New Yorkers fighting back against this as Bill the Butcher calls them the Irish horde streaming in on boats every day, who he has contempt for. And DiCaprio is kind of, coming back to try to get some revenge because, it's the opening scene. It's not much of a spoiler that Daniel Day-Lewis kills his dad, played by Liam Neeson, in a very brief role as Priest Vallon. But yeah, they have this big riot brawl at the beginning, and then it kind of jump cuts to these guys years later. But I just think this movie it moves really fast. It's very, very entertaining. There's a ton going on, but there's never not something interesting happening, and all the performances, other than Cameron Diaz, are fantastic. And it's not that Cameron Diaz is like necessarily bad. It's just she's doing like this very stereotypical Irish thing where it's literally a hearty tar sort of a thing, and it's not very good. Whereas DiCaprio is doing more of a subtle thing. I just think she's miscast. If they had cast somebody like Kate Winslet or Kate Blanchett or just somebody a little more capable, I think at the time it would have been fine. But everybody else is great. There's tons of people that just everybody that shows up is somebody. Like I said, Brendan Gleeson is like this Irish guy that runs for sheriff and their crew. Henry Thomas is in it. John C. Reilly. Any number of like British character actors, Jim Broadbent, all these people you recognize, everybody you kind of recognize as somebody, and it's just really, really good. It's a longer movie, but it's kind of an old school epic in that way. It's telling this big epic story, but lots of great set pieces, tons of great stuff. There's very brutal violence when it happens. Just really, really good. I can't say enough good praises about Gangs of New York. More people should be praising this movie.
Yeah, and it's one that I like. It was going to be the first one from your list that I watched.
Yeah.
And when I went to Netflix, it was gone.
Hey, I'll tell you one thing. If you buy Blu-rays, this one is worth a Blu-ray buy. I'll just say that. If you end up just getting it, seeing it somewhere, for like $10, it's well worth it. I think this movie is really rewatchable and really, really good. So yeah,
I've heard nothing but good things about it. So
yeah,
definitely want to check it out.
All right, cool. Well, we're jumping into the 90s, so we're getting a little further back. We're going 25 years now, which is crazy to say for 1997. It's kind of crazy to say. Yeah, but we have to start talking in those terms. So what do you got for 97?
Yeah, I got 97. Even though it was released in America in 99, it's a 97 Japanese release. It's the Studio Ghibli movie Princess Mononoke. Yeah, I had to at least get one animated movie in, and
hey, to be fair, I have an animated movie on my list that
you
we'll get
do.
to.
Yeah, I was surprised.
And I wanted to try. So, to be fair,
but no, Princess Mononoke by Hayao Miyazaki.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, yeah, it's a Miyazaki Studio Ghibli film. Where do I even start with this movie? I feel like this is like one that could be classified as like an animated epic, in my opinion. I think it earns the runtime. It's a long animated movie. It's 2 hours, 12 minutes, 2 hours, 13, something like that. I feel like it earns that runtime, in my opinion, anyway. These movies are always beautifully animated. I think, even if you're not a fan of the story, I think you can look at the animation and appreciate that. I think that's one thing that Studio Ghibli does really well. with the exception of their latest one, Earwig and the Witch. Like I haven't seen it, but I saw trailers and the animation style was just
Doesn't
like
look good.
it didn't look good. Like it looked like they were trying to go into like the 3D animation. It's like, no, just stick to what you know. You do that really well. Stick to that. But Princess Mononoke is about a young prince named Ashitaka who is involved in a struggle between the gods of a forest and the humans trying to consume its resources. Fun fact: looking at the Wikipedia page, the term Mononoke is not a name, but a Japanese word for supernatural shape-shifting beings that possess people and cause suffering, disease, or death. So
that doesn't sound good.
Fun fact I just learned.
Yeah.
But I think this story really moves along for me personally. I feel like we might have differing opinions on this. I'm not sure.
I'll hear my thoughts, but I'm not going to crap on the movie. It's just I'm going to give you my perspective on it. That's all. So that's all it is. And I have a story behind seeing this movie for the first time, so I got a story. Yeah. Well, please.
Yeah. No, this is up in the the upper echelon of anime movies for me. Studio Ghibli movies. It's in my top 128. So the next time, I don't think it was on the first 64. So when we do the next 64, we'll be seeing this movie again. I absolutely love it. I actually just finished it. Like I wanted to watch it again just because. Like I finished it an hour before we went live.
Nice.
I love the animation. I think the all the characters, like all the creatures, look really cool. I love just the American. I want to watch it with the subtitles because I do think that I do think that's how they should be watched. But I did watch the dubbed version, and I like the choices they got. It's got Billy Bob Thornton in it as one of the characters. I think he does a great voice job. I think the American choices were really good. But I think just one thing that Studio Ghibli does right for me is all of their stories are unique. Like they're so different from each other, and I really appreciate that. It's one of those where if I had to recommend a Studio Ghibli movie to somebody for the first time, like they haven't seen any of them,
right? Well,
like,
I think this is the one that
struggle.
People mostly say that this is like the representation of what like the studio can do and what they do. You know what I mean? Like as far as like you said, if you had to be like, this is Studio Ghibli in a nutshell, like it's this movie essentially, and then you kind of break off from there. This is the gateway drug, so to speak.
This one, and then because then you also got like the more family friendly ones, like Kiki's Delivery Service and My Neighbor Totoro. But then you got this one, which is like some really dark moments, like dude shooting arrows and cutting people's heads off. So, but I'm very curious about your story. Watching this for the first time.
All right, so I went to college for 2 years and I didn't finish. I dropped out. But while I was in there, I think there was one semester where I was just trying to fill out. I just needed like a credit or something. So I joined up and it was a small class. It was a Japanese studies class with this really kind of hippy dippy Japanese guy who ended up being a really nice guy. And like, so we ended up just reading a lot of different books and doing different stuff. And actually I ended up enjoying the class overall for what it was. And one of the things they did one of the weekends is they got everybody together in one of the big dorm halls, and they were going to screen Princess Mononoke. And I go, okay, I've heard, because I had heard of the movie. I was a film fan. I just never sat down and watched it. So I was all ready to like. I brought my Coke. I brought my M&Ms. I brought like all this stuff. I brought like everybody had like their pillows and blankets propping up on the floor because it was just like in this room, like it was like this big classroom thing, so we had to kind of like make ourselves comfortable, in the bed whatever ways we could. So like it starts and I'm like watching it, and again, I was appreciating the visuals, like it looked cool for what it was,
Yeah.
and like the music was good and stuff like that. And then next thing you know, an hour and a half later, the credits are rolling because I fell asleep, and I fell asleep, woke up with the credits rolling, tried to watch it again like a week later. I think I rented the disc from Netflix when Netflix on disc was a thing, and I know it still is, but when I had it for a long time, same thing happened, just could not get through it. It's more of a thing with me. I can't really get into Japanese anime and Japanese animation. It just doesn't work for me. Something about aesthetically just can't keep my attention. So again, I'm not here to like piss on the movie. Like it's more of a thing we've talked about. It's not for me. It's just not for me. Like it's just if people dig it, like I know people dig it, and again, I can also recognize the quality of the filmmaking. Like I can recognize the quality of the animation, the quality of the music, the effort being put into it. Like I'm not stupid to that, like I recognize that it's very well made and it's an upper echelon as far as that style of animation and all that. It's just not for me. It's never been able to click with me, and when people try to get me into anime or animation, I've just never been able to get over that hump. It's the same thing I struggle in the horror side of things. I struggle with Italian horror. There's just something about it I struggle to kind of click with, because it's so weird. Like there's a few ones I've championed that I like. I found a few gems here and there, but overall it's like not my thing, even in the horror business. So yeah, it's just I've tried to watch that. My ex, like she was into the Studio Ghibli stuff. She would watch like she loved Totoro and Ponyo and stuff like that. And like I would occasionally like glance over it, but it just not for me. So I don't shame anybody who likes it. I get that people dig it. It's cool. I got no problems with that. It's just not for me. So I've tried to watch it and I just kind of steer clear of it because and I know I comically like roll my eyes when it comes up on tournament fights or something, but I don't mean any ill will towards it. I'm just like I just know where my vote's gonna go because I just can't. It's just one of those things. That's all it is. But yeah, I don't shame anybody who loves this stuff. I get it. There's literally a theater in Asheville. It's like a dine-in, like kind of a half restaurant, half movie theater. And once every year, they do a whole month of Studio Ghibli movies in theater.
Oh, nice.
Like they do a whole celebration, like all throughout the month. They screen like the main 7 or 8 like most popular ones or whatever, like every couple of days, and like it gets a huge crowd. Like people dig it, and like I'm happy for them, man. Like I'm happy that those things have translated to America, and there's a huge fan base of that stuff over here. Like that's cool. It's just not a subculture I'm a part of. That's literally it. You know what I mean? Right. Jacob, Thursday night I'm going to see Cannibal Corpse, a hardcore death metal band. On one of my favorite bands of all time. That's not for everybody either. And I get it. Yeah. So it's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody has their own things they're into. It's totally cool. So, but yeah, I do recognize that Princess Mononoke, like is definitely like the upper one. Like if you're trying to get into it, that's definitely the one that people recommend. I do know that. So I'll try that. Yeah. Cool.
It's in my top 5 for studio, but I think it's number 4. I think I have 3 others in front of it, but
gotcha.
I don't know. After this most recent rewatch, I might have to rethink it.
There you go.
Really into it. Yeah.
All right. Well, mine 97 is kind of topical. It has a man who's been in the news a lot lately, one Mr. Johnny Depp, who's a free man who was wrongly justice for Johnny, as you might say.
Justice for Johnny.
So I didn't really do this intentionally, but it's just because I had the Blu-ray sitting over there, and it's also on Netflix. So I'm just meaning to get to it. So I watched Donnie Brasco, and this was a first-time watch for me. One of my first-time watches. I've just been meaning to get around to it. So it's a movie that's kind of loosely based on a true story. Johnny Depp is a guy who's been undercover with the New York mob for a long, like the Brooklyn mob, pretty much for a really, really long time. He's kind of playing this jeweler, and then he gets involved with Al Pacino, who's been he's kind of a hitman for the mob. He's got like 30 some odd kills, but he's been around the mob for a long time. He's one of these guys that kind of feels like they have overlooked him for like promotion within the mob, if that makes sense, to like make him like a higher guy. He's kind of stuck where he is. So he's kind of frustrated with that. But he ends up sort of mentoring Depp, and then obviously it gets into Anne Heche is his wife, and it's all these like marital problems that this whole thing is causing because he's way too deep and he can't really get out, and he's getting going down to Florida and starting businesses and all kinds of stuff. And he's leaving home for months at a time, and it's getting frustrating. So it's basically in general a mob movie, but like I liked it a lot. I didn't love it. And the reason why I didn't love it overly, I liked it, is for me, it lacked some kind of spark to take it over that hump that you get with like a Godfather or Goodfellas. With Goodfellas, you have those scenes that just take it over the top. You have, when Joe Pesci, the My Clown, stuff where it ratchets up the tension, where he beats the guy to death in the bar, they have to get rid of the body. Those scenes that just pop and stick out that are so memorable. The Godfather has that final montage where they're going around putting the hits on everybody, during the christening, all that kind of stuff. Like it's all those things that just stick out. This to me just didn't have any of those scenes that like really popped and like really made it like hit that over the edge. Like everybody's good in it. Depp is great. Pacino's great. Michael Madsen's in it. He's great. There's tons of people that just kind of show up throughout the movie. They're all very good. It's a very solid movie, but it lacks something to take it to that next level. You know what I mean? So like it's a good performance. It's a good Johnny Depp. If you're a fan of Johnny Depp, he's very good in this movie. You should definitely check it out. Al Pacino is very, very good. I would recommend a watch, but it's not going to become one of those ones I put on rotation like some of those other mob movies.
Okay. Yeah, and this one's been on my radar. As you know, I'm a pretty big Johnny Depp fan. He's one of my favorite actors.
Sure.
He's in the top three. I really enjoy his work, but this is just one that's eluded me, and I do want to get around to it. You're saying it's still good, not great. So
it's still good, and if you're a Johnny Depp fan, you should definitely see it because he's very, very good. And it's a very different performance from, especially around, if you put in context around this time, he's coming off of like Edward Scissorhands and like Ed Wood and these very quirky performances. And he's very like ground level, hardcore, like kind of angry in a lot of scenes. It's a very different performance, especially at that time. And it really showed how mature of an actor he could be. And he definitely like turns that corner. So if you're a John Depp fan, I definitely say it's definitely worth at least one look. Like you should definitely check it out.
All right. That's kind of how I feel about my next choice. If you're a fan of a certain actor,
kind of how I feel like it as well. We'll talk about it because I watched it.
Yeah, well. It's the 1992 biopic featuring Robert Downey Jr. as Charlie Chaplin. Chaplin was my 92 choice. I've heard good things about his performance in this movie, and those were mainly true. I really enjoyed his performance. It was your basic biopic about somebody's life, and that was Charlie Chaplin's, and how he just kind of became who he was as an actor, director, filmmaker, and just kind of what happened behind the scenes. For the most part, I enjoyed this. I think it is a good movie. I think it's a good one-time watch, especially if you're a fan of Robert Downey Jr. I think he really does give his all as Chaplin. But I don't know, something to me like it feels too long. Like I think
it's way too long.
Feel the runtime.
This one took me like 3 days to get through. Like I kept having to stop and like take a break from it, and that's not good. Like I kept having to come back to it and try to finish it, and like I kept checking the clock, and like it drags. this movie drags. Time it drags.
I watched it in 2 parts. I'm gonna be honest. I watched it in 2 parts. But I do think he gives a good performance. I especially towards like in the latter half of the movie. I think he's good. It's kind of the more. Because I think he gets more serious of a performance in the second half, whereas in the beginning he's kind of doing the silly antics that Chaplin would do on screen, and I loved how they kind of made it seem like almost like a silent film when they were doing the they were trying to hide him while he was editing the kid and like taking him in and out of the hotel, and kind of how they made that almost seem like they were doing
like a bit.
The silent movie itself, kind of like paying homage to that. I thought that was a cool choice, but Yeah, it felt too long, but it also felt like we were just jumping almost too far.
It fell into this weird cycle where I kept noticing it was like Chaplin falls in love with a girl, marries her. They split up because he's a workaholic and he gets divorced, takes all his money. He falls in love with another girl. They get married. They break up because he's a workaholic, takes all his money. And it kept going. And like, It did that like 4 times. And I realized that that's what happened really in his life. And I was like, okay, again, like we're going to go through this whole like storyline again and again and again. And like, it kept doing it over and over again. And it was just like miserable Chaplin for like most of the movie. And maybe he was miserable. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I know some basic things about Chaplin. I've never been like, it's not that I'm not a fan. It's just like, I haven't done a deep dive on all that silent movie stuff between him and Buster Keaton and all that yet. I'm more of a 30s and 40s, like Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello kind of guy. Like I like the visual stuff along with the antics, like the spoken antics and stuff like that. I'm more of that guy. I'm a massive Three Stooges fan. But yeah, like this movie, I liked the stuff in like the first 30 minutes when he was starting his act and he was doing like the stage stuff, like the drunken guy in the little box at the opera or whatever. Like that was great. Was really all the stuff with Dan Aykroyd, where Dan Aykroyd's like he's in his early movies and he's like doing the antics with like where they're filming and he's kind of improvising a little bit and just having fun. Like all that stuff was great. Like I was into the movie at that point. When he first starts, seeing all the stuff and kind of wanting to do his own thing and developing his act. Like I loved all that stuff. I thought that was great. And then it just settles into just like being this depressing biopic, and I just wasn't as into it. I was just like, where's the spark? Like, where's that magic? Like, I understand he's a miserable dude, but like I wanted to see more of him like making the movies and stuff. And I feel like we just
that's what I wanted.
And we barely even get the Great Dictator stuff, which is like one of his most famous things. They like barely show any of that. So yeah, I just wanted a little more out of it. The difference between this and something that I really love, like Stan and Ollie, which we've both seen and like a lot, is that that one also, I like these biopics that hone in on a certain time of their lives. And then maybe you have those occasional flashbacks, and because it's them on that tour where they're doing in the UK, but like you get to see a lot of their bits like doing on stage, like a stage versions of that, but you get to see them doing comedic chemistry, like you get to see them doing their comedy, and like I like that stuff, and I wanted more of that. Like that's why I would lean more towards recommending something like Stan and Ollie over this, just because they not only get the performances, but it's a little more entertaining and has a better storyline. This one just felt like kind of cookie cutter, we got to cover the entire life biopic, again with a good performance at the center, as with most biopics have a really good performance at the center, but sometimes they're just not as interesting, and they just don't weave as good of a narrative. So again, like you said, worth a first time watch, worth one watch at least to see the performance. I mean, again, Downey's very, very good, and it's another point in his career where he was, at the time, he was still kind of the Rat Pack or Brat Pack kind of kid, guy. And this is a much more mature, adult performance where he kind of turns a corner. And it's worth seeing it for that. And again, some of those scenes are really great. But yeah, like overall, I don't know if I could fully recommend it, but again, recommend like a one-time watch.
And I also didn't like.
Maybe want to go and watch actual Charlie Chaplin movies and see something more entertaining. Like I just want to go watch him do the comedy. Like that's what I wanted to see. So yeah.
The Kid is really good. I've seen The Kid. It's really good. The Circus is pretty entertaining. I've seen those two, and I really liked them. They have a whole bunch of them on HBO Max.
Right.
That maybe one of these days I'll do a deep dive and just kind of sit down. And,
I
they're quick watches too.
No, I know. Yeah, that's what's great about it. They're like 65 minutes. I mean, they're like barely movies, it's pretty great. Like those old Universal monster movies, like they're all like 60 minutes. Like they're all excellent. But yeah, like I want to do a deep dive for like a month at one point and just go through like all the Buster Keaton stuff and all the Charlie Chaplin stuff and like watch a lot of the Harold Lloyd things, like all that stuff. And I want to do a dive on it. But I feel like if I'm going to commit to it, I want to like fully commit to it and just jump in. Right. So yeah.
I also wasn't a fan of the makeup at the end where he was old Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Right.
It looked kind of like when Guy Ritchie did the old makeup in Prometheus. Do you remember that?
I haven't seen Prometheus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's you see it. Look out for Guy Ritchie in really bad old man makeup because that's yeah. So I guess we'll jump to mine. That's not so much of a comedy. I guess you can laugh at it if you have a morbid, sick sense of humor. But I watched Single White Female from 1992, which I had never seen, and I had always heard this is the kind of prototype crazy roommate or crazy ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend kind of movie. You know, the one that kind of takes it too far, kind of like Fatal Attraction. You know, that goes off the deep end and becomes obsessive. Um, so yeah, I went into it not really knowing what to expect. Other than that, it's got Bridget Fonda, who was kind of big in the '90s, and then she sort of dropped off and kind of disappeared. But uh, Jennifer Jason Leigh, who I love from The Hateful Eight, obviously, and she's in this one playing the crazy girl, you know, the titular crazy girl. Yeah, and it's really interesting because it takes its time. It's like a 2-hour movie, but it's because it kind of takes its time really developing the relationship between these two characters, the kind of bond that they form, and then just the little things that start to set off her going kind of off the deep end and sort of her doing the little subtle things to kind of mess with her, because she starts getting back with her ex who kind of emotionally abused her and stuff, and is trying to like cling on to her, like, not, don't leave me, like, you're mine now, like, don't go back to him, you're with me now, kind of a thing. And there's this aura of like sexuality about the movie where she's trying to like kind of subtly seduce Bridget Fonda, but she's not really like into it. And yeah, there's this tension where, when she gets back with the ex as far as like what she's gonna do about it. And of course there's all this crazy stuff in the third act where she goes off the deep end, and there might be some killing, there might be some murdering, there might be some, some kidnapping, all kinds of crazy stuff that happens. But overall, yeah, it's a really good watch. And if you're into that sort of movie, I saw other clones of this movie before I saw this movie. I've talked about it before. A movie that came out 10 years later when I worked in a movie theater called Swim Fan with Jesse Bradford. That's a straight clone of this movie. It's Jesse Bradford kind of breaks up with his girl, has sex with a woman who ends up being a crazy single white female type, and kind of starts messing with them and goes off the deep end, literally, and then the climax is at a pool. Yeah, it's a total single white female clone. There's been a whole bunch of those. I think there was one even called The Roommate, I think, from like a few years ago. I don't recall like who's in it, but there was like the same movie. I don't know who's in it, but it was just basically like a modern remake of this movie. I'll look it up in a second and see, because I remember vaguely there being. Okay, so it's for 2011. So it's Minka Kelly and Leighton Meester and stuff. Yeah, and it's basically like a ripoff of Single White Female, essentially. So it's the same movie. Because literally in this movie they're roommates in New York, so it's the same thing. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's good, and yeah, I'd at least say everybody should check it out if you're into that kind of a crazy, psycho roommate sort of movies. So if that's a thing, but worth it.
All right,
performances are good. I recommend the performances. They're very good.
All right, I did see that it's streaming on Hulu, so
okay, nice.
Be able to give it a watch. Cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
I just blind bought the Blu-ray because that's what I do.
So, I do that a lot.
It's just what I do. I the idea that I have that I'll tell you about the end of the show. I've already blind bought all the Blu-rays for it in case they're not streaming. So
Oh, yeah.
What
I do the same thing. What do I know what this movie's about? Absolutely not. No idea. Have I heard of this movie until I bought it? Nope.
Oh, Dream a Little Dream. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Hey, but luckily I at least like this one. Maybe I'll go back to it at some point. So at least I enjoyed this one. So it was a good watch. Yeah.
A movie I did not blind buy because I had seen it before I bought it is my pick for the 35th anniversary, and we're jumping to 1987. I'm talking about the Robin Williams classic Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam. That's right.
I originally had Roxanne because it was talked about pretty highly in the rom-com tournament fights episode. So I was like, I'll give it a shot. But then it's like, oh wait, this movie's 1987. I love this movie. I'm absolutely gonna switch because this movie's great. I think this movie is perfectly suited for Robin Williams because I think it is the perfect blend of him being able to do his comedy, like his voices, but also really dive into that serious side. I think it's the perfect blend. I mean, and rightfully so. He won Best Actor at the Golden Globes, was nominated at the Oscars, and rightfully so because his performance in this movie, like, man, like as far as performances go, I go back and forth between this and Good Will Hunting. Like, I think you could easily say these are the top two as far as live action. I know people tend to go Aladdin, but and rightfully so.
I just a personal thing. I might throw Insomnia in there too if I did like a top three. Like he's really in the movie as well. It's a different sort of villain performance, and he's really really good in it. Just in this sort of small ways. But yeah, this movie's great. It's like I said, it's got a great blend of the dramatic stuff with him, interacting with the Vietnamese people and kind of what, especially when one of them gets killed in a bombing, and his reaction to that, and a lot of things back and forth, but also has those scenes of him on the radio, doing his thing as Adrian Cronauer, and they're very, very funny, and you get everybody's getting into it. He's having fun. He's spinning the records, playing the music he's not supposed to play. But yeah, it's based on a true story with the real Adrian Cronauer, who I think you can go online and like listen to some of his real broadcasts from back in the day. And it's very much like that, because it was a real guy, and it was a real story about this dude who kind of broke a lot of the rules and just sort of skirted this stuff and what he's supposed to do. He was only supposed to play, like in the movie, he's only supposed to play like classical records and jazz and all this stuff. And he's just like, no, I want to play some stuff these guys are going to have fun with, We play some 50s and 60s, and we play some rock and roll. Let me, have a little fun. And yeah, it's great. All the supporting cast is awesome. You got young Forrest Whitaker in there. You got Bruno Kirby, who's the asshole guy that's a pain in the that thinks he's, I know I'm funny, sir. I know in my heart I'm funny. Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. So good.
I think Robin Williams, Adrian Cronauer knows funny, and that's
funny. Robert Bull, from Batman, like he's kind of the other radio guy, like reads the news and stuff, but he's fun, and then you get the twins from T2 and Gremlins 2 as like the guys handing him the news. Remember, like the two twin guys that the movies, as the guys handing him the censored news from Gremlins 2 and all that stuff. Yeah, those guys are great. It's always good to see them. But yeah, it's really solidly directed. It's not too long. It's like 2-hour movie. Just a great story. Yeah, it's a great 2-hour movie. No, in a good way that it justifies, like, it's good stuff. It dives into some of the war stuff. It's really good. But yeah, you can play it as both a comedy and a drama, and it works. It's a great blend of both, and he's awesome in it.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think if you're a Robin Williams fan, I'm pretty sure you've seen Good Morning Vietnam. If you're a Robin Williams fan and you haven't seen it, what are you doing?
Yeah, this is one of his all-timers. Like, this one's great. Yeah, great stuff.
It's where was it streaming? Hold on, because I know it's Amazon Prime. It is streaming on Amazon Prime.
Gotcha.
I also have a DVD version of it that I need to upgrade as soon as I can.
Oh, I've got a Blu-ray of this. Yeah, I didn't need to stream it. Yeah, totally. It's worth it. But yeah, Good Morning Vietnam. What's there to say? It's great.
I streamed it just for the higher quality.
Oh no, it's funny. I think I did something with one of the movies on this list where I streamed it because I had like a DVD of it and I just wanted to stream it in like HD or something. So or made sure I did. So yeah. There you go. Well, I guess I'll talk about my 87. Was a first time watch for me, and it's a movie called Inner Space, directed by Joe Dante. And I was trying to fill in my. I realized this was qualify, and I'm trying to fill in my Joe Dante gaps because I love Gremlins. I love Gremlins 2. The Burbs, his stuff in the Twilight Zone movie, The Howling, all that stuff. So I was trying to fill in a few of my little gaps I have with his. So yeah, I wanted to watch Inner Space. Didn't really know a whole lot beyond the basic premise, and the basic premise is like Dennis Quaid is a he's a pilot who gets sort of pulled into this secret program where they're going to shrink him down and send him into the body of a rabbit in like a capsule to like explore the inner workings of the body, like the bloodstream and the organs, sort of a Fantastic Voyage kind of setup. And of course there's a raid on this lab, and these guys are like trying to get the stuff, and he ends up getting injected into Martin Short, who's just at the mall. And it's Martin Short, who's a grocery store worker, who I related to because he's a cashier at a grocery store, and it's actually more of a comedy. Like it's more of just a straight kind of nutty comedy, with the sci-fi tinge to it, because it's all this stuff where he's messing with Martin Short's body, and he's doing all this jumping around and all of this physical humor and everything, and Dennis Quaid eventually like kind of jacks into his ear so he can talk to him, and kind of messes with him, and all while the people are trying to get the capsule back and all the tech back. So it's one of these things where it's kind of a half chase, on the run movie, but have like physical, just wacky comedy. Doesn't quite super succeed at either one of them. I was kind of mixed on this movie. Like it's got its great moments. I think it, like, I don't know if it quite comes together and is a total success because kind of tonally it's all over the place. But it does have its moments. I wanted a little more of the body stuff where he's like exploring the bloodstream and the organs and stuff, because we only get like bits and pieces of that because the effects aren't terribly great, but like it's still interesting. But I felt like we didn't get enough of that. Like I wanted to see more of that as like a straight sci-fi movie. But Martin Short's very good at it. I mean, he's very funny. He knows what he's doing as far as the physical stuff. He's really good. Dennis Quaid is kind of mean mugging the whole time. He's got this shit-eating grin on his face the whole movie, which is kind of annoying. He's a little bit of an annoying character. But yeah, I mean, it might be worth a first time watch if you want to see just kind of a weird sci-fi comedic premise. It's not bad, but it wasn't like great. It was okay. It was all right. Maybe it'll grow on me over time, but not my favorite Joe Dante movie right now. Gremlins 2 is still hardly my favorite Joe Dante movie. Yeah. But yes, by a mile. Yeah, by a mile. But it was still an interesting watch. I'll say that. I'm glad I've at least seen it once. So. All right. Yeah,
I'll probably get around to it at some point. It is available on everyone's favorite free streaming service, Tubi.
So, yeah, there you go. All right. Well, we're getting into it pretty deep here. We're at 40 years now.
Yeah, 1982. Yeah. I'm a huge Muppets fan, so. So when I saw 82 and I saw that this came out in 82, I was like, all right, well, it seems like the perfect time to give this a first time watch. And that is The Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal.
The Dark Crystal. It's another one of those I've heard good things about. I feel like if you either love this movie or you're just like, okay, cool.
I might be in the latter camp, but
I might be too, because I was like, okay, that's cool, but it didn't hit with me like a Muppet movie would. Like I love all the Muppet movies. Like the original Muppet movie is in my top 50.
Yeah, if you're looking for that,
it's a lot darker than a Muppet movie. The Dark Crystal is definitely the right title. But yeah, the story basically is about Jen, who is a creature called a Gelfling, who goes on like an adventure, a quest to restore balance to the world. They live in this world called Thra. I think it was THRA. I believe is how they spelled it. And overthrow the Skeksis, because you got to have funny names. You can't just have anything.
You got to have like normal Lord of the Rings kind of names, that you can't pronounce, and just kooky stuff.
Yeah, but by fixing a broken crystal.
Yeah.
By fixing the broken jewelry. I didn't hate it. I didn't want to like turn it off while I was watching it. But it was like, even though it's only 90 minutes, I was like, all right, is it almost done?
Yeah.
Is it almost done?
Yeah.
Like, sure, some of the puppet designs are cool, but like the story, it just didn't click with me. Like I didn't enjoy following Jen and on the adventure that he was on.
And Jen is so off-puttingly creepy. Like whatever they have the kid like wearing or whatever is just weird. Like it's like it looks like a plastic doll running around. It's very strange, very very
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah. The effects don't hold up. I know it's an early '80s movie, but like that was that kind of put me off. I wanted to like it. I wanted it to be like one of my favorites from the first time watches, but honestly, like it's probably my second least favorite of the first time watches that I did.
Yeah.
Like Jim Henson and Frank Oz just kind of like maybe I put the bar here
Right.
unfairly just based off their previous work, and then it was like
Sure.
here.
No,
But
I'm literally very similar to you. I know that this movie has a cult following, and you can
yeah,
see that. Like, you could definitely see this movie and be like, yeah, there's definitely people that would be like way into this. And I actually saw this in a theater on a double bill at an art house theater with Labyrinth. I don't know if you've seen Labyrinth.
oh okay, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so because it's that's also the Henson Company. I like Labyrinth way better than the Dark
Oh,
Crystal,
me too.
because it's just more of a fun, entertaining ride. You know, with them like running around this labyrinth, and you got David Bowie doing his thing, and like Jennifer Connelly's great, and like I think it just has more of a fun vibe with a few dark moments, but like it has more of a fun ride atmosphere. You know, it's a little more
Mhm.
engaging. Yeah, this one every time I go back to it, I want to like it, but it's like this should be up my alley because it's kind of dark and it's kind of creepy and like it should be. But
Right.
I've never really been big on fantasy, Jacob. Like Jacob, it's never really been my thing. Like super
Mhm.
fantasy stuff, even stuff like Willow is not really up my alley. I don't like hardcore fantasy stuff, which is weird because I'm a massive Star Wars fan and Star Wars is fantasy, but like it's a different thing, you know, for
Yeah.
whatever reason. But I've never been super big on fantasy. Even the Lord of the Rings, like I like Lord of the. I don't get me wrong, I like the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies. They're very good. But like I'm not like a super fan where I'm like into all the mythology and the elements and things. Um, but yeah, like I can appreciate the practical, costuming and the Muppet stuff, like with the Skeksis and things like that. They look really cool, when you first see it. Like the set design is cool. Like the little layer is really, really really interesting to look at. I like all the practical stuff in the movie, so I can appreciate it on that technical level. It just for me, the story just is not very engaging, and it's just not very fun. Like you need to have some kind of fun in this, and I don't
Mhm.
click with the kid like running around. Like I don't really care. I'm much more engaged with like Labyrinth with like Jennifer Connelly trying to get her brother back from like David Bowie. Like all that stuff is just better.
Mhm.
So yeah, these two movies get put together because they came around the same time in the same company. But yeah, if I had to pick one of the two, I easily pick Labyrinth. I think it's a much
Me
better
too.
movie, much more fun movie. Yeah, again, I see why this has a cult following. I get it, but I've never really been on board with the Dark Crystal.
Me either. Not anymore.
Yeah,
I wanted to
yeah,
be, but
yeah. I know. I try every couple of years. I get another shot, and I always try to, but it just never really works for me. Yeah.
you know what? I am on board with your
What's
next
that?
pick.
Oh, really? Okay. So yeah, I picked an animated movie that I've heard a lot about, especially since I saw. It must have been 5 or 6 years ago. I saw the Nostalgia Critics review of The Secret of Nim, which is my next pick. And I've always kind of heard about this movie. This Jim Bluth, kind of again a cult movie, a movie that has kind of a pretty ardent following. And yeah, it's Jim Bluth, the guy who animated, I think most famously, An American Tail. That original
Mhm.
film. The Five movie,
Yep.
and he did some other stuff as well. But that's kind of his most famous movie. But yeah, I've been wanting to get around and watch this for a while. And yeah, it was pretty good. Again for a first time watch. I will say I was way more into the first hour or so than I was into the last half an hour. I was way more into the story of the mom trying to kind of keep her kid alive and then trying to do this relocation and sort of try desperate, under this timeline to try to get her family out, before literally the threat is like he's about to harvest the field or whatever. It's like harvesting season, so they gotta move.
Yeah.
It's like in the bigger run, it's not like the world's coming to an end. It's just like
Right.
they're living around this farm and he's about to like do all this, stuff for the harvesting season. But yeah, like the animation is really cool. It's got a dark kind of tinge to it. There's some stuff where they play off the owls is very scary, and like the cat is kind of scary and threatening. And yeah, like I dug a lot of stuff. I always appreciate Dom DeLuise. He's doing something similar he does to American Tail when he's playing, the cat in American Tail. Like he's very good at doing these animated voices. He's very funny. yeah, I mean, overall, I did enjoy it. I could see myself going back to it in a couple of years, like for a rewatch. Because yeah, it felt very mature for what it was. Like it wasn't placating to, toddlers. Just trying to be over the top with the silliness, or whatever. It had a very level tone to it, which I appreciated. Kind of like the Iron Giant when we talked about the Iron Giant. Then how it didn't kind of play young; it plays a little older, to more mature kids. And I definitely appreciated that. So yeah, it was overall it was a good watch. Is it going to make my top 100 anytime soon? Probably not, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and I was glad to finally get around to it. Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it because yeah, it's one that I only recently got around to for the first time last year, but I agree with everything you said. It's good. The animation was good. The 80s just felt like animation was dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like between this and the Fox and the Hound, the Black Cauldron.
Yeah, it's like they were going, well, that's why they were going through that weird time, and like that's why Disney almost went bankrupt around that time because like they just were cranking up stuff that people were watching, and they were struggling to kind of find that new groove. And then we'll talk about that next week. That's kind of a lead into what we'll talk about next week. When they did finally kind of get their mojo back. But yeah, they were going through literally a dark time in the '80s, and it was struggling. But yeah, this wasn't even Disney. This is just like I said, the Jim Bluth company. Yeah. But yeah, but it didn't really get a whole lot of attention at the time. I think American Tail was a bigger hit. Like overall, I think that one did pretty well. But a broader movie. But even that movie has some really dark stuff in it, some really dark animation and some crazy, stuff in it. But yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. It was an easy watch. It was 80 minutes. Cool. I mean, it tells a complete story in 80 minutes. I've always appreciated that when you could tell a full story in like 80, 85 minutes. I had hats off to you. And yeah, overall, I had a good time with it. It was fun.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish some animated movies would go back to. Like
instead of being a 2 hour,
nearly 2 hours.
Yeah,
but some of them can earn that runtime. Yes,
right. But we're going to talk about that next week, and how almost all the movies we're going to talk about next week are like a tight 85, 90 minutes, and they tell a full story. They tell full worlds. They sell their whole cast of characters. They work in the songs and still tell a complete story. Like we'll talk about that, but it can be done. There are plenty of examples. It can be done in 90 minutes. It's very possible. Yeah.
I don't know if I ever actually put this up. 1982, The Secret of NIMH.
Secret of NIMH. And it's available everywhere. It's even like free on YouTube. Like you can see it anywhere.
It's free everywhere.
Very readily available, easy to see. Yeah, totally.
So,
all right. So we're almost to the end. We're at 45 years now, 1977. Yeah. And Jacob, a horror movie besides 28 Days Later, which I'm surprised. Yeah, it was something, wasn't it? Eraserhead.
Can you tell me what I watched? Because I'm still not sure.
No, I've seen it a couple times. I still don't know what it is. I don't know what Eraserhead is. It's something. It's not really a narrative movie. It's like a weird experiment. I'll tell you this, Jacob. I've always had a weird relationship with David Lynch. I've tried to like his filmography. I've seen a good chunk of his movies. I think the most mainstream regular movie he's ever made is probably Wild at Heart with Nick Cage and Laura Dern, where it's more like a road trip movie, of just them two, this couple kind of in love, but it's kind of still shot weirdly. His most famous film, Blue Velvet, with Dennis Hopper, is I wanted to like it, but it's again, it just goes to weird places. I just didn't vibe with it. I've tried to watch stuff like Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, just doesn't really vibe with me. I think I can definitely say I'm not really a David Lynch fan. His movies are just not for me. I'm more of like a Cronenberg guy or like a John Carpenter guy or something like that. Eraserhead is it's a lot of weird imagery. It's a lot of just weird stuff that like sticks in your head. I mean, it sticks with you as far as like what you see. Definitely, I will say that, but it doesn't really have much of a story. It's just kind of like stuff happening. It's one of those weird art house things. And it's definitely not even horror fans. I think most horror fans are just kind of like, yeah, Eraserhead is interesting as far as like, he was one of those guys that didn't care about, just putting whatever he wanted on the screen. And I at least admire that. He was not afraid to just do whatever he wanted. I'll at least admire that, his ambition. But it doesn't mean I have to like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't. I was not.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. After the first 10 minutes, I wanted to turn it off.
When you put this movie on the list, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna hate that movie." Like, I don't even like that movie. And like, if
Right.
I don't, you ain't like that movie. But hey, I was interested to see what the experience was. That's for damn sure.
After the first 10 minutes, I almost turned it off and
Mhm.
was gonna message you and be like, "I'm picking something
Yeah,
else."
I'm okay. Yeah, can I change my 1977 pick?
But
Or you should just
no.
watch my movie. Just be like, can I just grab that? Just watch your movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, or something, or just pick some other 77 movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna spend any more time on this.
You don't.
I don't recommend it. I mean, it's on HBO Max if you want to watch it, but I'm not sure why you would want to.
The only reason to watch it would be if you were tripping on mushrooms and you watch this
Yeah.
movie and want to have a crazy trip. That can be the only reason I would recommend it. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't even like quote unquote regular David Lynch movies, so much less Eraserhead. Yeah, but that's fine. We'll get to something a little more straightforward. Yeah, we'll get to my 77 pick. It's a movie I've championed for a long time. It's in my top 64. I love this movie. It's called Sorcerer from 77. It's a William Friedkin movie. And it's not what you would think. You think with that title, it'd be some wizard fantasy, Harry Potter, kind of movie. And it's not. It's a very strange title. I will fully admit that. They originally had a more straightforward title of like, Jungle Mission or something, whatever it was called. Yeah, it's not a sorceress, fantasy film. But it's William Friedkin, who was coming off of The Exorcist, probably most famously, is what his big movie that he did. And yeah, it's a 70. It definitely has that 70s vibe. It's very grimy, but the basic setup is it takes a while to get going. I'll say that if you ever get around to it, Jacob, because it starts out with these 5 different segments setting up each individual character. They each have something that happens to where they have to flee their country, flee their situation. They all end up down in South America, kind of an undisclosed South American country. They never really make it explicitly clear, but it's like they all end up down there in this kind of poor village. They're kind of living on the poverty level. They're not making a lot of money, and they need to make money to escape, to get out of the country. They got to get a passport. They got to get a plane ticket. Right out of there. But it costs money. And there's a lot of them work at this oil facility nearby. There's a big explosion, and the only way to cap off oil explosions is to blow it up. So they got to close it up. And in order to do that, they've got some nitroglycerin dynamite, but it's leaking, Jacob, and that's not good.
Uh-oh.
You know why?
Uh-oh.
Because if you shake it too much, a bunch of leaky nitroglycerin, what happens? It goes boom. So that's not good. But they somehow have to get this dynamite, this leaky dynamite, to this place that's 200 miles away. And they can't do it by helicopter. They can't do it by plane because it's too much vibration, too much shaky. They got to take some trucks. We got to load it up in some trucks and take it there. And who gets to drive the trucks? Well, the guys who need the money, right, Jacob? And it's a hell of a mission. So I'm still not really. This is just literally the first hour is like the setup of it takes an hour to even get to the actual mission. So I will say that it takes a while to get there. But once it gets there, it's basically a mission of them. They bury the stuff in sand in the back of the truck, and of course it's a double layered thing because not only are they going through the jungle and not only are they going through these edge of these cliffs, these narrow bridges, etc., but if they one misstep and the truck could go boom. So but the main character is Roy Scheider from Jaws, Chief Brody. Nice. So he's a recognizable face that kind of holds it together. But it's 2 teams, 2 trucks. These guys driving this perilous mission. And I swear to God, Jacob, I'm not making this up. This has maybe one of the greatest filmed edge of your seat, nail biting, thrilling sequences I've ever seen put to film. There's a sequence of them trying to get over this bamboo jungle bridge in these big trucks during a thunderstorm. It's all practical. It's all real. And it's one of the craziest 10 minutes of film you will ever, ever, ever see. To where you're like literally like, oh no, oh, like you're sweaty at the end of the scene from just watching it. And even there's stuff. I mean, throughout the thing, they're damn near going off the edge of cliffs, and they're trying to drive over these bridges, and the wood's cracking, and the rocks are falling, and it's just nuts. They come across, trees in the road, and what are we going to do? We got to get past that. And again, any slight movement, and we go boom. And it's just great 70s practical filmmaking, great tension. Again, it's a slow burn. It takes a while to get to the mission, but I promise when you get there, it's so worth it. It's such a great movie. It's Tarantino's favorite movies. It's one of his top 20 favorite movies of all time, which is how I discovered it. I have the Blu-ray, and it's incredible. Like, this is the filmmaking on display here, especially during the mission. So I highly recommend Sorcerer. I know it's a weird title. It's not what you think it is, but if the premise is intriguing, there you go. I very much enjoy it. Sorcerer is awesome.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
You sold it really well. I am intrigued to see it. Unfortunately, it is not streaming.
It's not streaming
at the moment.
I just literally bought the Blu-ray years ago. Because again, on just Tarantino speaking highly of, like, he talked about the bridge sequence being one of the greatest sequences of all time, like, ever filmed. And so I bought it just on that premise. And it's well worth it. So if you ever get around to it, I highly recommend it. Really
nice.
Good.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Down
to our last pick, each celebrating 50 years. So the movie I chose was recommended to me by a friend I go to church with and play board games with, a really good friend of mine. This is his favorite comedy movie, I'm pretty sure, is what he said.
Okay.
So on his recommendation, I turned it on HBO Max, and boy, am I glad I did, because What's Up, Doc?
What's Up, Doc?
Fantastic.
It's so good. This movie rules. This movie's great. Yeah, I watched it too. I'm glad I watched it too, because this was the last one I got to off your list. Oh my God, is this movie fantastic? This movie's so great.
Yes, it features Barbara Streisand as Judy Maxwell, Ryan O'Neal as Dr. Howard Bannister, and Madeline Kahn as Eunice Burns. Plus, like, so many other people. Like,
well, a lot of people you recognize Austin Pendleton. He's actually, where I know him from? The guy who was like the giving out the grant. He's in Mr. Nanny. He's the guy who was the dad of the kids, which is the movie I recognize him from. But like Randy Quaid's in there, like an earlier Randy Quaid. A fun fact: the guy who plays the sort of German guy who's competing with him for the grant is Kenneth Mars, who you might appreciate this as a trivia fact. He's King Triton in The Little Mermaid. So yeah,
I knew the voice was familiar.
Yeah,
like just the tone and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, but
yeah.
How to describe this movie? 5 people have the same bags. And chaos ensues.
Well, and just to give it context, so it's a Peter Bogdanovich movie who actually he just passed away recently. So it was kind of cool that we watched this because Bogdanovich just passed away. There's a lot of big fans of him. This is his throwback and his love letter to the classic 30s and 40s screwball comedies back in the day, like His Girl Friday and It Happened One Night. And if you don't know what the term screwball comedy is, I'll give an example of like a modern scene that's kind of a screwball scene, and what the premise. So if you recall Mrs. Doubtfire, do you know the scene at the end or near the end where they're in the restaurant and he's bouncing back and forth between being Mrs. Doubtfire and being Daniel, the two tables, trying to play both the roles, running back and forth, always changing, running into the kitchen, all kinds of misunderstandings and trying to duck away and make excuse. Like, that's a classic screwball comedy premise. The people running around, he's changing, it's just kind of chaos with a bunch of interactions and trying to keep up. Some like it hot. There's the stuff where it's either Jack Lemmon or Tony Curtis is like running back and forth, trying to both be with Marilyn Monroe and like a date, and also like trying to stuff, like running all over the place, like trying to do both things at once. That's a classic screwball comedy premise. And basically this is like an hour and a half of that. It's a screwball thing. All these bags are constantly changing possession, between all the people. They've all got different important things in there. All these wacky characters are kind of interacting back and forth. There's people playing other people. Barbara Streisand's inserting herself into this guy's life, just kind of like pretending to be his wife. It's just madcap, chaos.
Calling him Steve the entire time.
Yeah, and his name's not Steve. Yeah.
Was one of them supposed to be Steve? I don't know. But yeah. So Howard is there for a banquet. He's trying to receive a grant, and I think he's such a great character. I think he was
he's
just
such a weird, like, whatever he's doing, this character, just the way he delivers lines, like his delivery and his matter of factness, just like,
yeah.
I don't wish to talk to you anymore. I'm leaving now. What was I doing in here? Oh yes, watch. Just like the way he's doing. He's really funny. He's fantastic in this. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Howard. It's nice to meet you. You're not. I'm not Howard. No,
Yeah.
you're not gonna say that. Oh,
Yeah.
like his delivery is just perfect. I love it.
Go back downstairs. Yeah. I'm going to stay here. Just yeah, it was great. He's awesome.
Yeah, when he's delivering the story to the judge after a way too long car chase that I don't care is way too long.
Well, it's again a screwball comedy like climax where it's just this ridiculous chase where they're on a bike getting chased by cars, and there's of course a gag with a plate glass window being moved all over the place. It's going to break at some point. You just don't know when. The payoff, like when it's actually going to happen, and of course it breaks eventually. Yeah, they're busting through stores. They're getting covered with Chinese New Year's dragons. They're all crashing, going off on the pier. Just crashing cars all over the place. There's chaos. It's nuts. But I mean, even the stuff at the beginning where Barbra Streisand just crossing the road and causing all kinds of accidents, just walking across the street. It's just from the beginning. You're just like, who is this woman? What is she doing? She's hella cute in this movie. I was kind of attracted to her. In this movie. I think she's really she's like 30 years old in this movie, and I kind of dug her. But again, she has this thing for Ryan O'Neal. But like you almost grow to appreciate the fact she ends up like trying to help him get the grant, in a way, like she's actually trying to help him, and she kind of she's like clingy, but like she's helping him out in weird ways. And Madeline Kahn is kind of like the actual fiance, kind of caught in the middle, being thrown all over the place, being told to go different ways. There's gangsters. I damn expected ninjas to show up in this movie. There's somebody like side tangents because there's like mobsters, and there's shooting, and there's chases, and it's all just this madcap, people running in and out of hotel rooms, switching bags, and just all kinds of stuff. But it's a lot of fun, man. I thought this was like the breeziest like 90 minutes. Like it was so much fun. Like I had a smile on my face like this whole movie. This is one of the best discoveries I had of this whole thing.
Yeah, I like this was the easiest choice to make too for me. 72. What's up, Doc? Okay, I've been needing an excuse to rewatch it because I think the rewatchability for this movie is.
I'm gonna rewatch this movie like a month from now. Like I can almost guarantee. Like I'll be rewatching this movie a lot. Like this is a lot of fun. I'll put this one in the background all the time. This is great.
Yeah, like this. This is the second time I watched it a couple months ago, and this was the second watch, and it's rare for me to bump up a movie so high on like my personal list after just a couple watches, but man, I might be trying to find a movie to take off for this one.
This movie for me, like 2-3 years and a couple more rewatches, I could see this movie jumping into my top 100 like easily. I could see that right now. Like for how much fun I had with it, like of this gem, and just the characters and just the constant movement and again, like Barbra Streisand's like really attractive. Like I could actually go back and watch her in this movie, and like Ryan O'Neal's just quirkiness, he's great. And there's two people from Blazing Saddles in this movie, which helps because Madeline Kahn and the hotel manager guy that tells him to leave later is also in Blazing Saddles. Howard, he's the Howard Johnson guy.
Fritz. Roger. Fritz.
Yeah, Fritz.
Like there's so many times I laughed out loud in this movie.
I laughed a lot. Yeah, this is great. Good watch. Good pick, because I probably wouldn't have seen it if you hadn't put it on your list. I wouldn't have even been aware of what it is. I've heard of it, but I had never seen it. I didn't know. I didn't even know the premise. I read like one line of the IMDb. It's like some mix up with a bunch of different bags that look the same. Okay, we'll see where this goes. And I didn't know it was back to those screwball comedy movies, but yeah, because it was. I think it's one of the best versions of it, man. I really dug What's Up, Doc. This is great. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's great.
All right, what's the last
movie that's not as funny as What's Up, Doc? I'll say that. But a really good movie nonetheless, and I'm sure one that will come up. In my prep for tearjerker fights of 70s action movies. So I watched the Steve McQueen film The Getaway on on HBO Max. It's just one that I've been meaning to get around to. It's a Sam Peckinpah movie. He made The Wild Bunch, and he made Straw Dogs, a bunch of other movies I like. So I'm kind of sort of filling in those filmographies. But yeah, Steve McQueen, he's in jail, and then he gets out, and the warden guy wants him to do a job, like a bank job with some other guys, and of course, as usual, things go wrong, Jacob, as they tend to do in some of these movies. Things go wrong, some deaths happen. His wife goes off the deep end and maybe or maybe not kills the warden guy, so now they got to go on the run, as an impulsive thing. And it's kind of a road, chase movie where they're getting chased by the cops, and there's a lot of close getaways. And because it's a Sam Peckinpah movie, it's got a darker tinge to it. Steve McQueen's usually kind of the big, good-looking hero, sort of all-American guy, but he's got a very dark nature to him in this movie, because he's this convicted felon sort of guy. And yeah, the violence is very, very striking when it happens because of the Peckinpah nature. He knows how to kind of really hit it hard when it happens. Kind of takes you off guard. But yeah, some good practical car chase sequences. That's what I love about the 70s is they're just crashing cars left and right, for real, and it's all over the place, and there's a lot of destruction going on. But there's also just some really clever scenes. There's a guy who switches the bag out when he's not looking. Of money, and he gets on a train, and Steve McQueen's on the train, and they're trying to get the bag from him and go back and forth. There's some good stuff even just like that. It's a really, really solid movie. Oh my God, there's a trash sequence that comes out of nowhere where they get stuck in a trash truck in the back of one, almost getting crushed. And it's a crazy sequence. It just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's really tension filled. It's really good. And kind of the way they get into it is kind of nutty. But yeah, it's a really, really solid movie. I'm glad I watched it. I'm definitely going to go back to this one in a couple of years. Really good, kind of old school 70s kind of cops and robbers sort of movie, good stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Mm-hmm. I'll probably end up getting around to this one too on your recommendation. It is streaming on Paramount. So
it was on HBO Max, at least originally. Is it not there anymore?
I'm just going off Google. It has it on. It says Paramount, so at least it's streaming somewhere.
Yeah, maybe I watched it right before it left the service or something. Okay, that's interesting because I watched it like a week ago when it was on HBO Max. And now it's
maybe,
not there anymore.
Maybe it is, and they're just not.
No, again, why I promote physical media so hard. Physical media never goes anywhere. It's always where you need it to be. And it doesn't disappear in goofy streaming deals. So, that's always why I appreciate that. But yeah, overall, I mean, I had some good first time watches for me. The Getaway was good. Secret and M I enjoyed. Single White Female was really good. Donnie Brasco was pretty good. And Inner Space was okay. Inner Space was probably the least of my first time watches, but even that wasn't bad. It was still enjoyable. But yeah, what about for you? Where would you put near the top and near the bottom?
So my favorite first time watch was probably 28 Days Later. I really enjoyed it. That'd probably be my favorite. Dark Crystal and Eraserhead. If I had chosen something else, I'd probably be a little more happy with my list. But it is what it is, man.
Now you've seen it. You're not into it. It's fine. Yeah. You're not off the list. It's okay. It's not the Muppet movie. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
Chaplin. I like Chaplin for the performances. I think 28 Weeks Later is a good sequel. I do think it is a good sequel, even though I probably I had expectations for the kind of movie I thought I was going to get, and the movie that I got was not that, because, like you said, different director, just different
vibe, different feel,
vibe, yeah. But being able to rewatch What's Up, Doc,
and overall, my first time watches, because I ended up watching yours, What's Up, Doc's on top of my list too. I would say even over the ones I watched for the first time on my list. Yeah, that was great, because I'm definitely going to see myself going back to that one a lot and just putting it on, just to have a little fun here and there. Nice. So yeah, that potentially my number one, and it was off your list. So yeah, I'm glad I watched it. Yeah,
that'll make my friend happy. He's really high on this movie. Like, I think
I see now. I see why. Yeah, I'm down. Yeah,
I don't want to say for sure, so don't quote me on this, but he he may have seen this like in the theater. It's an older friend for sure.
Gotcha.
He may like he's been high on this movie for quite some time. Yeah, he said it's his favorite
I
comedy.
own it on Blu-ray now from Warner Archives, so I
Nice.
own it. So like, if it's off HBO Max, I can pop it in. Yeah, that's how my hey, dude. If I'm high on a movie after I see it for the first time, I'll buy it on Blu-ray, no problem. I have no problem with that. So
I'll end up ordering it at some point too. But yeah, it's man, I can't talk enough about that movie.
Yeah, good stuff.
But we should stop because we're hitting the 2-hour mark, and we got to fill them in on what we're talking about next week.
Well, actually, I'm going to tease the next couple of weeks if you don't mind, because we'll kind of map out our next. So yeah, because we got some things coming up. So yeah, in the immediate future, next week we're going to a genre and a studio that you're a big fan of, and I'm a fan of. You know, I grew up watching. We're watching some Disney movies, and I had an idea for us to kind of revisit the Disney '90s Renaissance. So the 10 main films. Technically, I know. Excuse me, Little Mermaid was 89. Yeah, I know. But everybody agrees that The Little Mermaid was the start of that Renaissance.
Yes.
So yeah, we're going to start with those Disney films from Little Mermaid to Tarzan, and go through those 10 movies. And we're not going to do like rankings. We might do like a personal ranking at the end if you want to say like what your favorites are or whatever. That's fine. But that's not really like the focus of the show. We're just going to kind of go chronologically and talk about the journey of the Disney Renaissance, and kind of talk about where the studio was, and kind of go through the movies and kind of hit on each one just real briefly, kind of go through them. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I know you're a big fan of those movies. You love animation. You love Disney. So yeah, we're gonna hit something up your alley because you're kind enough to indulge me occasionally for my horror franchises. So I had this idea, but if it's one I'm into too, I'm. Those early movies I'm big on, and I have not revisited a lot of those back half movies in a long time, long time. So I'm interested to see how they play now. Stuff like Pocahontas and Hunchback and Hercules and stuff I have not revisited in a long time. So I'm interested to go back to. I was watching Pocahontas today. I kind of already started. So that's what we're doing in the immediate future next week, or I mean, pending, Jacob not getting sick. This is what we're doing next week. Yeah. But, we always get to it Saturday or Sunday or whatever. We'll figure it out. But yeah, the week after that, we'll be doing just a kind of wild card week is what we're going to call it. Just we're going to talk about whatever we want. Anybody can bring as many movies to the table as you want. We're just going to see whatever we've been watching in the last month or two, whatever you watch in the next couple of weeks, just anything off any streaming service, any Blu-ray, whatever you've been watching. So it's literally up in the air. We probably won't even share our list with each other. We're just going to go on the fly and kind of say what we've been watching. And it might give me an excuse, Jacob, to, as big as my collection is over there of the 2,000 or so movies, I probably have 100 or so Blu-rays of just stuff I bought that I haven't even opened yet, that still have the plastic on them. So maybe it'll give me an excuse to just pick 3 or 4 random ones of those and just crack them open and watch them, just whatever they are, maybe a few different genres. And then, whatever I happen to watch on streaming services here and there. So yeah, that'll just be a wild card week where we can just talk about whatever, not really a theme, just catch up on anything we've been watching. And then, the week after that, we'll be doing a Jurassic Park sort of retrospective to coincide with Jurassic World Dominion. I'm going to see the movie. I'm sure you're going to go see the movie. And we're going to
go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have some time because we're actually going to do it about 2 weeks after it comes out. So you'll have plenty of time to go see it. So yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to talk, we'll go chronologically. We'll just kind of talk about the retrospectives, our history of the movies. I know you've got 2 first-time watches you got to fill in the gaps for on there, I believe. So with the second and third films, but you got your Blu-ray set, your handy dandy Blu-ray set over there. So I know you're ready to go on that. Right, no problems there. But that'll be good. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on those movies because I definitely have my opinions of those, and we'll see what happens. So that'll tie into that. And then I've got an idea to sort of round out the next 4. I had an idea today listening to a podcast I listened to, so I got kind of stealing their idea, but I think it'll be fun for us. So what I want to do is do another thing where we each pick 5 movies. And what I want to do is something called director blind spots. So I think we each pick 5 directors we either really admire, we really like, we're getting into, at the time and want to see more of, or ones you want to start with and just maybe start with a big movie of theirs that you've heard good things about. And we each pick 5 directors and a movie we haven't seen from each of those directors. And we just watch them. So, and fill in some gaps. So for me, I've already picked my 5. If you want to hear kind of what I mean by like the show, like get an idea of what I'm talking about, like you can pick again. You can pick whatever you want. You can skew newer. You can skew older. I'm gonna skew a little older because I've seen all the Christopher Nolans. I've seen all the Spielbergs. I've seen all the PTAs. I've seen all the Tarantinos. A lot of the directors working today, I've seen pretty much their entire filmography. So I'm gonna skew to some stuff where I'm trying to fill in some gaps for some older directors I really, really like. So I've kind of already picked my blind spot for each of the directors. So I'm going to start with Howard Hawks, old school director Howard Hawks, who I've been into lately. I'm going to watch Rio Bravo because I've been on a Western kick, the last couple of years. So I'm filling in some Western gaps of some iconic Western movies. So I'm going to watch Howard Hawks' Rio Bravo. My second one's going to be John Ford, another epic old school director from back in the day, and again another Western with The Searchers, because I'm trying to appreciate a little more John Wayne because I'm more into kind of the spaghetti Westerns, but I know Searchers is kind of a big one as far as one of the bigger, more well-loved Westerns from back in the day. I'm going to go to Scorsese, but I'm going to fill in a gap of a pretty big one he made in the 80s called The Last Temptation of Christ, which I've already pre-bought the Criterion Blu-ray, so I've been interested to go and watch that, so give me a reason to do that. I've been on a Billy Wilder kick lately with Witness for the Prosecution and Sunset Boulevard and Something Like It Hot and all that kind of stuff and Double Indemnity. So I'm watching The Apartment. I already own it. I just need to watch it.
Oh, nice. I love The Apartment.
Okay, so I'm going to watch The Apartment for the first time and do a little Billy Wilder and finally get around to watching it. And then with The Godfather and Apocalypse Now and stuff, I've been on a Coppola kick kind of lately, and I've never seen his movie he did in between those, The Conversation with Gene Hackman, and I own it, and I've heard it's very, very good, like almost up there with not as good as like The Godfather or as epic, but I've heard it's one of his best movies, one of his top 4 or 5 best movies. So I'm going to watch The Conversation. So you don't have to pick yours now. I'm not saying you have to pick them on the fly. Take your time, pick your movies. I'm just laying it out there so that you have plenty of time if you want to start early, and think about it. Pick your movie. But you can pick any director. I mean, if there's a Spielberg movie, like if you like Spielberg, but you've got some blind spots and you want to watch something, fill in a gap for Spielberg, you can do that. If there's a Scorsese you've been meaning to get to and you want to get to that, if there's a Tarantino you haven't seen, I don't know if you've seen all the Tarantinos or all the Nolans. So if there's something you want to get to one of those guys or PTA, or whoever, I mean, you can do John McTiernan, you can do John Carpenter, for horror, you can do Ridley Scott, you can do anything, so whatever you want. David Cronenberg, yeah. The Fly, have you seen The Fly?
I have not.
That might be a good excuse to do a little Cronenberg and watch the Jeff Goldblum Fly. That'd be a good one. That'd be a good one. A little Cronenberg and a little body horror.
I've got some floating around in my head already that
That's what I'm saying. You can maybe just look through your collection. You might have stuff you bought that you just haven't dug into yet that you want to, or if there's something on a service that you want to check out. But it's just an idea. I want to fill in some of these gaps. It'll give me a reason to. And again, I'm just skewing older because I've seen most of the recent filmography kind of stuff, so I'm just going to go a little older with mine, but you can go more recent, whatever you want. But I figure 5's a good number for this because overload. Oh, don't overload it. Let's just go 5, and then we can do a part 2 later. Maybe later in the year we do it again.
For sure.
Do it again, so we can always come back to it. But that's kind of my thinking. But you can do whatever you want. But hey, let me know what you're going to watch because there's something I want to rewatch or something. Along with you, so I can have the conversation. Let me know. That's kind of my idea.
Yeah, I already wrote yours down and. Thankfully, I'm already 20% of the way through your list already.
Well, you don't have to watch mine if you don't want to. It's strictly up to you. If you have time,
I do need to catch up on some westerns. It's a genre that I'm lacking in, so it'll be a good excuse. I do like westerns.
I'm a bigger fan of like the Sergio Leone, like Clint Eastwood, like grittier westerns. So I'm trying to go back and appreciate more of the lighter westerns. The ones that are still regarded as being well done. But like I've been mostly on a 60s and 70s western kick. I'm trying to go back and watch some like 50s westerns. Maybe other 60s westerns. So that's kind of why I'm going that direction for a few of those, but 2 different directors. So yeah, that's kind of my logic there, and we'll see what happens. I'll be interested to see what you pick. I mean, let me know definitely when you do, so I can,
for sure,
if I want to watch some stuff and have the conversation with you. But that's why I'm announcing it now, like, a couple weeks away. So you have time if you want to start prepping early, if you want to watch a movie a week, build up to it, whatever you want to do. So yeah, that's my idea, and that's kind of what we got going on for the next couple weeks. So there you go.
All right. I like it. So make sure you guys tune in for that. If you're watching on the replay, tell us what you think of these movies. If you've seen them, what would you have chosen to celebrating their
50th or
different
40th anniversary? Yeah, what would you have picked?
If we'd gone a little further back, I would have celebrating 85 years. We got Snow White. I mean, just tying into that Disney from 1937.
Like 100 years and pick a 1922 Chaplin film or something, or Buster Keaton film, which is the general or something. Yeah. Hey, there you go.
Yeah, there were a lot of good choices. These were ours. So just if you're watching on the replay, let us know what you would have chosen, and make sure you hit that like button, like the video, because we like talking about movies, and we hope you enjoy listening to us talk about movies. And if you don't,
if we get 10 views a video, I don't care. I like doing the show with you, man. Like, this is fun. I enjoy doing these. Again, this has helped me kind of fill in some gaps and really energize my movie watching. All the shows that we do. The shows I do with Henry and everything. Help me like really fill in some blind spots.
Yeah.
Appreciate the movies. Get to some things I haven't seen, so I definitely enjoy that. And I try to come up with fun topics for us. We try to collaborate and do some fun stuff and kind of mix it up so it's not the same every week. Have some different fun topics and some fun, tangents. And we just have a good time, man. I'm just here to have a good time and talk some movies. Yeah.
Me too. That's what this is about. Filling in those gaps. I was thinking earlier before we went live. I think in the last year and a half, I've only rewatched maybe 20 movies.
Yeah, a lot of the movies
I'm
like prep for something, and I talk about that a lot. But it's like it's always prep for something, whether it's like watching a lot of stuff for the first time or rewatching stuff I haven't seen in 20, 30 years. Like, it's been fun, doing that because you always have discoveries or rediscoveries, with a lot of this stuff. So, it's been good. Yeah, and then you get you do one of these episodes and you get a "What's Up, Doc" that might end up in your top 100. It can happen, Like I like that. That's fun because I've had to go more. Look to the past for stuff now because the stuff, not everything that comes out now is like interesting to me or like I'm interested, but like in the past to kind of find those gems, find those diamonds in the rough, to quote a movie we might be talking about next week. There you go.
Yeah, next week is going to be fun. It gives me an excuse to rewatch all those movies, and I'm going to take.
Well, yeah, and those, like I said, I need a couple of rewatches, but like I don't need to watch Beauty and the Beast again. I'm good. Right. I don't need to watch Little Mermaid. I'm good. But I'm excited to see some of those and rewatch a few of them. Yeah, no first time watches, but definitely some ones I haven't seen. And God, I haven't seen Hunchback since the theater since I was 10. So who knows how it'll play now. So who knows? Yeah, I don't know. But I'm interested. That's why we're doing it. Yeah.
Tune in next week for that. Either Saturday or Sunday. It just depends on the schedule. Depends on how our lives are going. But Saturday or Sunday, we'll be doing this again. Make sure you tune in for tier ranker and tournament fights. Make sure you watch Henry Confidential and Austin on Let's Rank Stuff. On Wednesdays, make sure you hit the bell because that's not always at the same time either, just like this show.
No,
hey, you want to know when they're going live.
Movie Hero Network in general, so you always get alerted when we're going live and you can join us and have fun. Yeah, we like that.
Because it might say 9 o'clock, but it's not always 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So, yeah, hit that bell. Right.
Yeah, but this has been a lot of fun. I am still Jacob. He is still Austin. And hold on. Ding. I don't know who this is.
Ding. Well, thank you.
But we appreciate the ding. So yeah, once again, I'm still Jacob. That's still Austin. And keep talking about